All right, so I'm going to be talking about acquisition, all right? The one thing I want to say is a disclaimer before we get in. We're going to do the best job we can to give you guys actionable content to put in your business, but that's going to be 30 to 40% of what's actually going to be important about this event. The most important thing you can be doing at this event is the people that you're sitting next to connecting. My grandpa used to say, my dad tells me at least once a week, you're one handshake away from changing your life, and I really, really, really believe that. So make sure that you guys are intentional about meeting people. If you guys want to do deals, make sure you're talking about your goals. That's how you're actually going to get deals done in this business. It's through the people that you meet along the way. All right. So the very first thing when it comes to real estate investing is acquisition. How do you do your first deal? So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Dylan Miracle. I'm half of Real Valley Dream Team. The other half is my dad sitting right there in the white shirt, pouring his water. So this is the primary domino that you need to get across the table to get a deal. That's the first thing. It's not about money, not about your exit strategy. It's how do we get the first domino across the table? How do we get that deal? This is what we're going to talk about today. All right. So number one, this is what you're going to get from this presentation. What is a deal? What does it even look like? Number two, where you can find them. Number three, how can you reach out? Number four, what is the lead? And number five, how do we negotiate? There's a lot of different ways you can do this, but these are the 5 frameworks and how we get deals done consistently. We're doing right now between 3 and 4 deals a month. This is exactly what we do, how we find the leads, what a deal looks like, how we actually negotiate, and I'm giving you guys all that we can get for free. All right. Before we talk about that, there's a lot of us in here. Some of us have already done deals. Raise up hands for people that have already done deals in this room. Okay. Raise your hand if you have not done a deal in your first room. You just want to do your first one. Okay. So there's a couple limiting beliefs that I want to share with you guys that don't serve us. Number one, no experience. Okay, this is a big one. I don't know enough. I don't have enough experience to do my first deal. I promise you guys, as a kid in his 20s, experience is a limiting belief, and if you allow that to not do your first deal, you'll never do it. That is not going to serve you. Number two, there we go. Number two is no money. There are tons of ways to do real estate without having money. You can have resources. You can wholesale real estate. You can do seller finance. There's a ton of different ways that you can get your foot in the door with doing deals, but money is not an obstacle. Do not let that be an obstacle for yourself too. And we'll talk a little bit about how you can do that. All right, so a little bit about me, why I'm even qualified to be here. I am a kid in my 20s, but I want to share with you a little bit about my journey. So this was July of 2021, a year after I decided to make the leap and start doing investing. My dad in 2020, I didn't want to spend my summers partying with all my teammates. I came back on my dad's doorstep, did not want to be in real estate. I was trying to stay as far away from that as possible. But he had an opportunity. COVID left an opportunity out the window, so I showed up on his doorstep, said, Dad, I want to learn a little bit. He said, I'm trying to grow this investment arm. I want you to meet a couple people. And from there, I just started cold calling. I met with Jason, I met with his acquisitions guy, Scott. I got to know who I need to call, what I need to do, and I just started taking action. It took me a year to do anything. And my anything was $500. But that $500 felt like $1 million because it took me a long freaking time to get that. All right, fast forward a year later, I still hadn't really done much. I sold a couple retail deals, but I didn't really do anything on the investment space yet. So, in my opinion, the thing that we can always do is invest in ourselves, in our network, get access to people, and understanding. So I paid a little over 10 grand, about 12 grand to join a coaching call. That's me, November 9th, 2022. I didn't have 12 grand. I put 5.5 of that on a credit card, and I joined my dad's mentorship that he had joined too. So I did that in November 22, 12 grand out the window, okay? 3 months from then, I did my very first wholesale deal that I personally made 17 grand on. The total wholesale profit was 75 grand. My take home was 17. Okay, that was about 15, 16 months ago. In January, this was my biggest goal that I started. When I was 19, 20 years old, the number one goal was to have my very first rental. And in January of this year, my dad and I are standing out there at our very first rental that we got in January. Okay? Thank you. Fast forward to today, I'm not an expert. I will never propose myself as an expert, but I've done 13 deals. I have 3 doors in my portfolio that I share with my dad. We've raised just shy of $2 million in private money. And then we've made $200K in profit from deals in the last 6 months. Now, This sounds really fancy and it's really marketable. There's obviously taxes, operations, stuff you gotta pay for, but I'm pretty proud of those numbers. But what we're most proud of is not our own success, but the success that we've done with our partners. We've made our partners from real estate agents, wholesalers, people that have invested in our deals, we made them 150 grand in the last 9 months, and that we're fucking proud of. All right, so here's some expectations. I wanna make sure I set your guys' expectations right. This will either be the best presentation you've ever heard, the worst presentation you've ever heard, or somewhere in the middle, and that I can promise. All right, so let's talk about what a deal is. All right, so 3 steps to knowing that you have a deal. Number 1, the property needs work. There's some type of deferred maintenance. Maybe it's outdated, maybe the roof's bad, maybe it's overgrown grass, cars on the lawn. These are things, indications that you might have a lead. Might. Number 2, motivation. Motivation other than money. For those of us that are realtors in this room, a lot of times we have a hard time wrapping our head around it, but sometimes people aren't always motivated by money, and there's something other that we need to figure out that helps us determine if we have a deal on our hands. Number 3 is urgency. They need to sell quick. These 3 things, if you have this, you probably have a deal on your hands. All right, where can you find them? All right, there's 2 ways we can do it. There's a lot of different frameworks and stuff, but I put it down into 2 ways because I want to make sure that we don't overcomplicate it. You can do it yourself, or you can do it with someone. If you're going to do it yourself, you can drive for dollars. Okay, it's very simple. Get in your car, maybe when you drop your kids off at work or at school, maybe when you're going to work, you can take pictures of properties, take notes of them. Okay, so manually drive, add properties that are vacant or need work. Number 2, you can use services like Property Radar. Okay, you pull a list from these, all this is just pulling data, okay? List examples are tired landlord lists, probate lists, pre-foreclosures. Some of us that have done deals, this is how a lot of us market, because at a certain point, driving for dollars, you're kind of capped out on your time. This is a little bit more how you can speed track the time. All right, number 3, title companies. If you guys have good relationships with title companies, we have some title reps in here, they can pull these, they can pull, Grace in the back. We can pull these lists from title companies, and they're usually willing to do it, and it's gonna be more cost efficient and sometimes free than versus Property Radar, which you have to pay for, okay? Now, if you're gonna do it with someone and you wanna skip this step and maybe you have too much, you don't have enough time, you can find wholesalers that are in this room, raise your hand, okay? We have a handful of wholesalers in here. These are people that actively market to these deals, and you can pay them what's called assignment fees to bring you deals to your table. So if you guys are an active buyer, connect with wholesalers, they can bring you deals. This is how you can do it with someone. Number 2 is connecting with valuable agents that are marketing to properties or people that might be motivated to sell. If you build good relationships with them, you can also get deals across the table, and you can skip all of this step, all right? All right, what does a lead look like? Okay, they can look like this. Yeah, I know. But they can also look like this. They don't always need a ton of work. Sometimes they're just outdated, right? How can you reach out? This is really, really important. So we know now what a deal looks like. We know how we can find them, but how can you reach out? Okay, I'm telling you, I'm trying to keep this simple. We call this inbound, outbound on the people that actually do deals, but really what that means is you go to leads or the leads come to you. Only 2 ways. If you know another way, please tell me and I'll make this for the next presentation. But 2 ways. Go to leads, they come to you. You have 2 resources, okay? You either have time or you have money. If you have more time than money, we can cold call, which is my favorite way to generate leads for our business. Okay, some of the ways you can do this is you can set up a Google Voice number, you can set up a dialer. This is lead Sherpa or batch skip tracing are ways that you can skip trace. I'm not gonna go too in the weeds on that, but these are how you can pull the numbers out from the properties and actually call them. And we use Property Radar a majority of the time to find these leads. Okay, number 2, drive for dollars, we already talked about that. And you can door knock. The way I did my very first flip with my dad, who actually came from a door knocking lead, we had a referral, someone told us that they might be interested in selling, we actually door knocked it, and that's how we did our very first flip together. It does work, it just takes time. If you have more time than money, it's a great way to get deals. All right, I wanna make this simple. I want you guys to actually be able to do deals. Okay, so this is the funnel. All right, you have a distressed property, right? Here's a property that we actually just bought from J-Rod. J-Rod, raise your hand. Okay, he's a wholesaler, connect with that guy, he's awesome. But we bought this in February. Okay, so here's a distressed property, right? You can see it's a little outdated. What we're gonna do then is we're gonna look this property up. Okay, this is 414 North G Street, please don't call me. Okay, we go to Property Radar, I blurred out the owner's names, But you find all the information. You can see when they bought it. You can see how much equity they have. And then now we have their names. Okay, now we have to skip trace it. It moves on to the next part of the funnel. Okay, you can use a free service like True People Search. Okay, truepeoplesearch.com. If you guys don't know this, jot it down. It's a free service that you can use. It's not 100% accurate, but you're probably going to get a 60% hit rate, which is enough if you have more time than money. This is a great way to do it. Okay, you skip trace that number. I blurred my number out. Well, that's me right there. You can take that number and you call it. That's the next step of the funnel. So make sure you call it and see if they're interested in selling. All right. Now, for those of us that have jobs, have kids, maybe have an established business, and we have more money than time, here are 3 ways that you can get deals across the table. Number 1, okay, these are ways that you can get leads to come to you. Okay, you can pay for mailers and send people postcards saying, hey, have you thought about selling? All right, that's when you can handwrite them or you can pay a service to do that. Number 2 is PPC. You basically go on websites and you pay per click. Okay, you submit a request to get those leads and you call on those leads. Okay, that's PPC. It's usually going to run you about $250 to $350, but they can be upwards of $400 or $500. Okay, the last thing, and this is a really good way, we're a big believer in this, we're always happy to pay assignment fees, is you can pay wholesalers to bring you deals as well. So if you have more money than time, these are 3 great ways to do deals. All right, what is a lead? I think this is one of the most important things because when I first started, everyone I talked to I thought was a lead, and I was spinning my wheels way too much. So we need to define what a lead actually is. A lead definition is a person who is interested in the product or service you sell. It's very important that we understand that they are interested. If we have a list of, say we pull a list off a property area and we have 3,000 people, those aren't leads. Those are prospects. A lead is someone that indicates that they are potentially interested in selling their house in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 months, okay? All right, there's 4 pillars whenever we're on a phone call. My background is in cold calling, all right? So these are the 4 pillars that we want to make sure we understand whenever we're on a cold call. Number 1, the condition, all right? That's really important. It's outdated, deferred maintenance. You can sometimes do deals with properties that are nicer, but it's going to be a little bit harder because they know their property's nice, all right? So condition's really important. Number 2 is motivation. There's some motivation other than money, and sometimes people want speed and convenience, and they're willing to trade equity to sell their property. Now, it's super important that we take our time here. We have to be asking them, hey, why have you thought about selling? Why not just list the property? Why not just put money back into the property and rent it out again? We want to understand. And a lot of times, they're going to be a little bit reserved because you're calling them out of the blue. So what do? We have to unpack and take your time here. So things that I like to do is I'll mirror them, right? So that they say, oh, the last 6 months has just taken a lot of time and money. That's taken a lot of time and money? Question mark. We want to mirror some things that they say because they'll unpack more of what they're talking about, okay? It's really important. This, if nothing else, if you get nothing else, motivation is the single most important piece of getting deals done in real estate. Price, condition, all that stuff is great, but motivation is going to be the reason why they're choosing to sell to you over listing it on the market. All right, timeline. This is another key point. They need to sell quick, so that the way that conversation looks like is, hey, if we come to an agreement today or in general, we can find a number that makes sense for you, makes business sense for us, how soon would you be looking to sell? Okay? We need to understand, and if I got the right price, you hear this all the time. If I got the right price, I'd be willing to sell tomorrow. Don't take that at face value. Actually take into that and see if that is really what they're trying to do. And if that is, and they do want to sell quick, these are another reason why you might have a motivated lead on your hands. Okay. Number 4 is price. Okay. Is their price reasonable? Something I want to harp on here is there's a lot of us watch like shows like Suits or things like that, and a lot of us are groomed to have a little bit of sales resistance to certain words. Okay. Price is one of them. We are groomed to not give our number first. So the way that you can do that, that's kind of a Trojan horse way to ask, you say, hey, after this is all said and done, what are you hoping to walk away with, right? I'm not using the word price, a ballpark number, a range that you're looking to get once this is all said and done, okay? Price is you can also ask fair price, but I've noticed in my experience when I use the word price, they typically push me back and they say, well, you're the one calling me. What number do you want to give, okay? If they ask that, we want to stay in the pocket here. Okay, so, well, hey, you seem like a smart guy or a smart lady. I'm sure you've been thinking about it for some time. I mean, you've been telling me that you're dealing with this. I mean, I'm sure there's been a number that you're thinking about. What do you think that number is? Right? We want to take time and stay in the pocket, and they'll be like, well, I don't even know, you know. So then what I want to say again is I'm staying in the pocket. I'm not giving up. I'm not taking it at face value. I want to say, well, listen, I'm going to take this number back to my team, and I want to go at bat for you, but if I don't have a number, they're probably going to come in lower than you want. I just want to know if we're going to be even realistic. What's a ballpark range that you're looking to get, okay? These are little ninja moves that we can do to get price out of sellers, and that's super important so that we can know if we're even playing ball. All right, now we have a lead, okay? We know what a lead is, we know how to find them, okay? What are we actually doing on these appointments? I try to boil it down into 4 different frameworks, okay? Something that's been super beneficial to me, I did my first deal 16 months ago, all right? When I first did my first deal, I was like this on the phone and I was shaking. I was so nervous because I actually needed the deal. I just pulled out a shit ton of money on my credit card and I needed to get this deal done. Otherwise, I was gonna be paying a shit ton of interest, right? So where I've learned today, after having done 13 deals, I'm not an expert, but the single most important thing for me is changing my intention when I'm on these appointments. I cannot need the deal. My focus is not on doing the deal. My focus is on getting better at negotiating and getting another rep so that it's gonna help me 5, 10, 15 years from now. Me going into that conviction and knowing I don't need the deal can spill out in that conversation and I'm not feeling like, they're not feeling that I'm desperate. I think that's very, very important and how you're actually gonna start to build a real relationship with these people. Number 2, trust. Okay, this is, in my opinion, one of the most important things, if not the most important thing, of why they're willing to sell to you versus somebody else, okay? The way that we do that is we ask good questions. We're not just talking about the property. We want them to tell us stories about the house. So like, have you grown up here? Like, what's the deal? Like, why are you even thinking about doing this in the first place? Like, you're just asking these questions. Another way, like we were talking about earlier, is mirroring the last few words of what they say. So if they're telling you a story about their house, let them continue to unpack it. Don't just jump in and say, for example, if they're, oh, you know, my kids grew up here. Oh, your kids grew up here? And then they'll probably tell you a story that they remember from when their kids were growing up. These are really, really important in how we can continue to build trust with these people, okay? Then we want to restate what they're saying in our own words. So if they're telling us why they're motivated, they're telling us these stories on these appointments, we don't want to just be a parakeet. We don't want to just repeat what they say exactly verbatim, but we want to restate what they're telling us and what we're hearing in our own words. Hey, it sounds like you've been dealing with a lot. It sounds like you've been here for a long time, and I'm sure this is probably an emotional decision for you. Right? Am I getting that right? And then what they'll do is they'll tell you, hey, yeah, that's right. Or they'll tell you, actually, no, this is something that you missed. It's super important to do that. The same way when we see a waiter or a waitress at a restaurant and they don't repeat back or they don't have a notebook, we're like, are they even fucking listening to us? Right? It's the same thing. So we want to make sure that we're doing this on these appointments. There we go. All right. Next, framing. So we want to remind them of the situation and frame before we pitch price. Okay, what framing means, when we're about to talk price, let's assume that they haven't given us a number yet. All right? I want to remind them of what they told me about the property, why they're motivated. Hey, your property, you said that the roof's caved in, or there's something going on with the roof, the AC's not working. There's things about the property that you know need some work. And it sounds like to me, you're dealing with a lot, your tenants haven't been paying for a little bit. Now listen, I'm gonna come in cash, I'm gonna buy it as is, we're not gonna deal with any commissions, I'll even pay your closing costs. All that considered, I mean, what do you feel is a fair price for the property? I wanna frame before I ask price, because I'm, again, digging back into their pain of why they're actually interested in selling, and that's gonna help me deliver, as opposed to if I didn't say that at all and I just said, hey, what's the price that you're willing to give me? They're gonna probably come at a lot higher. Okay, so we wanna frame before we deliver it. That's my opinion. All right, next. And this is something that I'm continually having to learn, and it's being authentic to yourself, okay? You're not gonna be, I already know I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay, but you have to be willing to be yourself, and that's why someone's gonna choose you over someone like Jason, over someone like Aaron and Cletus, over someone like J-Rod, because they like you and what you stand for. And being authentic to yourself is not just agreeing to everything they say. For example, if I have a seller and she tells me that she loves horses, I'm fucking terrified of horses. I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, I love horses. I'm gonna say, dude, I got kicked by a cow when I was 12, and I've been terrified of horses ever since. I'm gonna be honest and authentic to myself, and that's important, and that's what's gonna polarize you and make you different from everybody else. True story, by the way. All right, so now we have a lead, now we're negotiating, but how do you actually determine your offer? This is actually an offer calculator that we have. Honestly, just modeled it after Jason's, but So we have ARV. Okay, ARV is after rehab value, after repair value. Okay, that's what we think it can sell for once it's fixed and flipped. All right, we punch in their square foot. Selling costs out here about 13.5%. I've kind of tweaked this since then, but this is the old calculator I used to use. Okay, medium repairs about 67 grand. We have what we want minimum profit and what we want maximum profit to be. Okay, that gives us our target price and where we're probably going to ballpark them. Okay, when we're actually giving a number, I always want to anchor them a little bit lower. Hey, I'm seeing other investors are paying between 209 and 219. What do you think about that? Okay, they'll tell you, oh, actually I want 250. But if I start off lower, I can actually negotiate. I have room to come up, right? I want to make sure I have room to come up. That's why the offer range is super important. All right, so let's actually break this down. So a lot of people get the ARV, they minus their repairs, and then they minus their buy price, and they think that's their profit. There's a lot of other things to account for too. Okay, one of them is interest. If you're borrowing money to do these deals, you're going to be paying some type of interest on that. When you resell the property, you're going to have commissions to pay for and selling costs when you actually use a title company. Okay, so you want to make sure you bake that out in there. Repairs are generally for the interior going to cost you about $35 per square foot, but they can cost you upwards to, if you're not wanting to be granular about everything and you want to do a new roof and everything, generally around $50 to $55 per square foot. It's probably just going to be an easy back and napkin numbers if you have to do everything. Okay. And then we like to do it the way, you don't have to do this, some people just do flat fees. What's up, Strat? Good to see you. But we like to do minimum percentage on the ARV, so just put simply, if we want to make a 10% return and the ARV is 300, we want to make 30 grand on that deal, okay? All right. Actual numbers on a deal that we did, this is that flip I was talking to you about that came from a door knock. Resale price was $415, it was actually $15,000 higher than we were expecting. We purchased it for $232, all-in repairs was $67, our sale cost was $23, and our interest cost was $34. We paid a lot of interest on this deal. It took a little bit longer than we were expecting, but we made $59, so we were able to keep the lights on, okay? All right, so now you have an accepted offer. What we want to do, these are the 3 steps, okay? Trying to keep it simple. You get a signed off-market agreement, okay? You open escrow with the title company, make sure you're not doing this under the table, you want everything above water. Open escrow with the title company, okay? The step 3 is find money. The reason that's step 3 is I promise you if you have a good deal, you can find the money. I promise you. If you do need to find the money, okay, these are the 3 ways you can do it. You can have private money, which is me going to my friend and saying, I have a deal, would you be willing to fund this? Okay, that's private money. Hard money is when you go to a lending institution like Zinc Financial, okay, and they will give you the money to fund the rehab and the purchase price, and you'll have to just put a little bit of skin in the game. But these are lending institutions that lend to short-term borrowers like fix and flippers, okay? Number 3, and I honestly don't recommend this, but if you have a lot of cash and you don't want to pay interest, you can use your own money, but you're going to have a lot of opportunity costs if you do that. All right. Now, how you can partner with us, I just threw this in here, just if you guys don't have the experience or whatever. This isn't just only us. These are people that are actually doing deals, people like Jason, Aaron, and Cletus, Stratton, J-Rod. This is how we all can partner up. But you can be a real estate agent. You can get paid to bring us deals and represent us as buyers and get the listing on the back end. You can JV deals if you have the deal, but you need the resources. If the numbers work, we can partner and split profits 50-50. And private money lender, you can make passive income through lending in our deals. We aim for 8 to 10% annualized returns. Okay, but I know you guys aren't here for this. You guys are really here for who wants access, raise your hands, if you could get access to a purchase agreement, seller script that we use for all of our deals, live call of me actually closing a deal, offer calculator to actually underwrite these deals, private money playbook, and a tired landlord list playbook. Raise your hands. Who thinks that would be valuable? All right. So this has personally cost me hundreds of hours and probably 15 grand in coaching and mentorships and things like that. So I put the purchase agreement, I think it's $1,000 value. Seller script, I think it's worth $500. Live call to study, it's just me on the phone. I think that's about $100. $365 for our offer calculator, $5,000 for our private money playbook. This has been the single most important thing that I think has given us jet fuel in the last 18 months. And then $150 value for the tired landlord list playbook. So our grand total is $71,150. Okay, but for a limited time, we're willing to give it to you guys for not $71,150, but we're gonna cut it in half, okay? But I was talking to my dad, and I was talking to some of the speakers, and I was like, you know what, I think we could do a little bit better. So we're not gonna do it for $35 either. We're gonna do it for one single payment, just for today, because you guys made the way out here for $9.99. but I felt like we could still do a little bit better. We're actually going to give it to you guys for free today. So you guys will get all of that access for free just for coming out. So if you want to scan the QR code, if this doesn't work, let me know. Make sure you guys get the QR code and get all the access for free. And that's me. So if you guys want to connect with me on social media, I'm Dillionaire321. We really hope that you guys get a lot of value. The next person that will be speaking today, well, real quick, did anyone get value out of that? We're good? Cool. All right. Sweet. So the next person that's going to be speaking is a big mentor of mine. I've known him for a long, long time. He's going to be talking about seller financing. He has a really good twist on the business and stuff. It's someone I look up to. He's a friend of mine, big coach and mentor. He's also my dad, Bo Miracle.
Okay. So first of all, I want to thank everybody, but I have to do a daddy thing because that was my son. Closer. Okay, loud as fuck. Okay. All right, I'm going to eat this shit right there. Okay. So anyways, I'm super proud of my son. I seen Strat come in with his son. To see my son up here speaking about real estate investing, as he told you guys, this was not what he wanted to do. He wanted to be as far away from Miracle Realty or myself in real estate as possible. So to hear him talk about this stuff, to see him build these relationships, I'm just super proud. Couldn't have done a better job. I don't even know how you're my kid sometimes, but great job, son. Appreciate it. My speech is not going to be as sexy as this, okay? Let's just get that off the rip, okay? But I do want to thank everybody that came out. Dylan made mention earlier that it's very important that we are valuable of our time, or value our time, and you guys showed up today, and that's one of the steps that makes good connections and builds relationships, and hopefully you guys learned something today. I want to thank Kirk. Kirk, if you don't know Kirk, raise your hand, Kirk. That guy, if you've ever read the book, Go Giver, that motherfucker is the connector, okay? So anyways, sorry, I'll keep, yes. He's a great resource, you guys, to be honest. That guy just knows everybody. If you say, I need something, he's like, I know a guy. And there's a few people in this room that are similar to that, but Kirk, I mean, man, that guy has just been in business for a long time and is a huge pillar in our community. So thank you, Kirk, for making this happen and bringing this venue to us. Also, thank you, Jason, Cletus, everybody for showing up. And then thank you, Jose, for encouraging us to put this together. This is our first meetup in Madera, so we're excited for that. And okay, yes, thanks. I'll talk louder. Okay. All right, so can everybody hear me first of all, so I don't eat the microphone? All right. So some of you may know me as Bo Miracle with Miracle Realty. I'm the broker owner. I'm not coming to you guys as broker Miracle Realty, Bo Miracle today. I'm coming to you as investor. But I do want to give you guys a little short segment of who I am. I've been doing real estate for a little over 13 years. Back in 1976, Miracle Realty was established well before my time. I'm sure you guys know I had Dylan when I was 10. So that gives you context. But aside from that, I took over in 2011 when my dad passed away. I had just gotten licensed 9 days prior to that. And then I found my dad passed away. Very unfortunate circumstances of how to get into real estate. But without trial and triumph, you don't become better. I had to overcome a lot of adversity in that time, but it was one of the best things that's happened to me. I started my journey as a retail broker. That's just kind of what I did. We did property management for other investors, which has been a great business. We've built great relationships. We have great clients. We have a great following. But onwards, 8 years ago, I met a gentleman in this room, Jason Pritchard, and he came to a Starbucks in Madera. It's not the right Starbucks, but we only have 3, so anyhow. You get the point. There was a gentleman by the name of Anmar. He went to my CrossFit gym that I once used to own here in Madera, and he said, you've got to meet this guy. I don't know if Jason even knows the impact that he's made in my life, but the power of relationships is why I'm here today and why I'm going to be talking about real estate investing. This gentleman sat down with me. He was doing 60 to 70 flips probably a year, which to me was badass, but maybe he doesn't think it's badass now. But at that time, he was really, really opening up the playbook for me and telling me what he did. But at that point, I only had maybe 1 or 2 flips under my belt. Excuse me. And Jason was willing to give his time to meet with me. And I think Angel was with me. Yes, so Angel was with me at that time. And he was an open book. He didn't charge me any money. He just told me what he was doing. He was telling me how he did it. He told me he had these big ass goals. And usually ego gets in the way a little bit. You're like, oh, okay, guy, you're gonna do 100, whatever. I own a broker, your brokerage, Anyways, he was doing way better than me. So, but I was really grateful for that meeting. And what it did to me is it changed the trajectory of my life. It planted a seed into me that showed me that there was a lot more. And it goes back to what Dylan was talking about, limiting beliefs. I was always chasing the commission check. And that was nice. I was making good money and I was building my own legacy and I was doing those things. But who in here is a realtor? Okay. Who here has a retirement plan being a realtor? Okay. Yeah, it's the same problem. So we're in the same boat. So anyways, what was happening was I was chasing the next big investor to help him find properties and to help him invest in properties. The problem is I never touched, felt, or smelt an investment opportunity myself. I only advocated and only talked out my ass like I knew what I was talking about, and I really didn't. I knew a certain component, but I didn't know the true logistics of what an investment property looks like. And he changed my thinking and my mindset. And then, of course, I'm a little bit slower than some, so it took me a little while longer to kind of get up to speed with it. But at this point, we've come a long way. And this is the power of relationships. My team has grown. I've grown my investment side of the business. And again, the reason that I want to bring up Jason and the people in this room is because the power of relationships is the most important thing in business, in life, right? We don't get to die with money. You don't get to take the real estate with you. There's one thing that you leave as a legacy and the relationships that you established along the way. That's it. I'd rather have someone pour a 40 on my grave than piss on my grave, right? That's just me, a little cliche there, okay? But again, going back to it, I've established a good team. I wouldn't be here today without the people in my life, nor the team. I have a great team of agents, but the biggest thing that I can say is I have a great family of agents because those people in my life today are part of my family because we're around each other way too freaking much. So what gives me validation to stand up here besides being in real estate for 13 plus years? As I've established my own investment portfolio of just shy of $10 million, which I'm very grateful for and very blessed. It hasn't been an easy road, but as time goes by, we've done 30 plus flips also, and my son and I have done well over 15 at this point, which I'm grateful for too. And one thing, just because we all have a little ego, I'm just getting started. So anyways, that's a little momentum. Today what we're going to be talking about, is that's cool and everything, but I want to give you guys some value. Dylan gave you something that we talked about charging you guys $5,000 for, but he gave it to you guys today for free. So I'm going to give you a little bit of what I have for free. 60% of my investment portfolio has been established through seller finance. Does anybody in here know what seller financing is? It's great, let me tell you. I absolutely love seller financing, and a lot of the times the problem is a lot of people question, why would somebody do seller finance? We can just go to somebody that lends money, we can go get the money from the bank. The reason that I enjoy it is because it's an easy process for myself selfishly, but secondarily and most importantly, it's a win-win for both parties. As long as it's communicated correctly and it's done correctly. Everybody has different strategies and different ideas. For me, seller financing has been the best entry-level way for me to establish my portfolio, and 60% of that. All right? So I'm not a good speaker like Dylan. I mean, he must be the mailman's, but I'm gonna just tell you some deal stories. So I'm gonna tell you some deal stories is how I relate, okay? So Dylan's cueing me. Okay, first off, again, we're talking about what is seller finance, right? What in seller finance does everybody think that happens? I'm gonna tell you the seller becomes the bank, okay? Does everybody know who makes the most money? The bank, that's right. All right, so again, the money, the banks make the money, and that's why it's a good situation. There's 5 things to negotiate when coming to seller finance. It's the price, the down payment, the monthly payment, the interest rate, and the term and length. Okay, so a lot of the time, that might just be a little bit too far-fetched for you, but realistically, those are all the components that go into financing, right? When you go into a lending institute, those are gonna be the 5 pillars that you guys have to establish within a deal to structure it accordingly. So those are the things that need to be negotiated. Everybody has different reasons as to why they do certain things, but these are the things that you guys need to do. I'm not going to talk about taxes and the advantages and all that stuff because that's going to get too far into the weeds. If you guys want to talk to somebody about that, talk to Jason. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so two takeaways that I want you guys to really take from this. The thing that I've learned, because I've always had analysis paralysis. Does anybody have or know what that is in this room? Yes. Okay, it's where we say, I wish I could do a deal. I wish I could do a deal. Man, that guy's got 5 properties. Man, that guy has 100 rentals. I wish I could do that. Well, you don't know until you ask, right? Most people that want to sell their property don't know until they're asked, right? They just don't. Not everybody knows that they want to sell the property, and it goes back to Dylan, what he was saying is you have to be able to extract that information, find out, have that conversation, meet with those people, and then again, if you don't know, you ask. And again, the reason that I bring that up is because I'm going to tell you guys about some deal stories that I have, and with those deal stories, I didn't have money, I didn't have the resources, and I didn't know shit, but the one thing I did was ask, okay? So that's one of them. And then also the other takeaway that I want you guys to take away from today is with good intentions to create a win-win. Going back to that, being genuine to yourself, I think that if you're honest and you honestly talk to somebody about the process and you have a good understanding of what the process is like and you're genuine about it and you're not trying to take advantage, you'll create a win-win. And most times, if somebody's a little bit savvy, seller finance is great for both parties. Okay. All right, so here's one of my deal stories I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to keep throwing Jason under the bus. Hopefully it's a good bus. So this deal, there's actually a few people in this room that almost participated in the deal. So I came across this deal. It was a phone up that came through Miracle Realty, and they wanted us to list the property. So normal procedure for me, I call myself a closer. Some of you might be better. I feel like I'm really good at what I do. They called, I said, no problem. I'm gonna go walk this property. Where's it at? They told me. So anyways, I went to the property and I was like, oh, this is jacked up. This property sucks. So I was like, I don't even wanna list this damn thing. So anyhow, I walked the mobile home. The mobile home was completely destroyed. Cockroaches, mice running through, and there was this guy with his shirt off. I mean, I don't know if he was trying to be sexy, but I didn't take sexy from it. But he was standing there in the down portion of the mobile home because it had two levels, and he was just staring at me with his shirt off the whole time, tatted up, looked like he just came out of prison. Which, no offense if anybody's been in prison, but. Anyhow, I walked through that property, a little weird, and then I walked to the other property, a house ran into it. It was pretty cool. Completely, the front exterior of the house was completely damaged from somebody running their car into it. So, pretty interesting property. So anyways, I wanted to buy the property. Something came to my mind, but I went back to the seller and I said, your property sucks. I was just honest. I said, your property sucks. She's like, well, your uncle and your dad used to buy properties. Would you buy it from me? I was like, oh shit, she wants me to buy this property. Well, I ain't got no money. All right, so let me think about it. So I was like, I'll figure it out. So I went to Angel and I said, hey Angel, you want to flip this property? He's like, yeah, let's do it. I was like, cool. So it was good. It was good. We had some momentum. We called Zinc Financial. Are they here today? Yeah, Zinc said the property sucks so bad because they had a mobile home. They weren't going to give us financing. I was like, what the fuck? So I called Jason Pritchard. Jason, I got this deal. I think it's a good deal. I think we should partner up. Jason's like, tell me about it. And I was all excited. I'm like a little kid when I have a deal too, still to this day. So I was like, this is all. He's like, okay, what are you buying it for? I was like, $70,000. He's like, okay, $70,000. Tell me more. I was like, it's on almost 3 acres. He's like, okay. Talk it out. I was like, okay, it has a house, stick built, and it has a mobile home. He's like, okay. He's like, I have 17 transactions, Bo. I can't right now. Sounds like a good deal. I suggest you buy it. What the fuck? So then I went to Christian. He's here today sitting at the table. And I was like, man, maybe we can buy it. I went back to the seller and I said, hey, me and my partner are going to buy it. She's like, oh, no, I don't want to sell it to you and a partner. I just want to sell it to you. Oh, okay. I said, listen, lady, nobody wants to give me money for your property. Nobody wants to partner with me on this property. I don't know how I'm going to buy your property. She's like, you have to know a way. I said, the only way I can possibly do it is if we do seller financing. I've never done seller finance, okay? So I said, this is how it's got to work. I have $10,000. I'll give you $10,000. I'll give you $300 a month for 3 years until I figure out what the hell I'm going to do with your property. She's like, sounds good. Oh, okay. Guess I just bought a property. So anyways, moving forward, I did buy the property, and then we went on to, that's the other deal, but I thought I had a picture of it being distressed. But anyways, I renovated the mobile home, put about $35,000 into it a little bit later, rented it out, $1,350 a month now. And then I went and reestablished the stick built. I might have added square footage. There's no code enforcement in here, right? Okay. Oh, retired. So I might have added 1,000 square foot, but it rents out for $1,450. I was on seller finance. I refinanced and I pulled $90,000 out of that property. My big mortgage on that's $130. My payment's $800 a month now at 3% interest, and I cash flow gross about $2,800 a month. Yeah, and then that's cool. That's not gonna make me a generational wealth. It appraised for $475. So, anyways, I was like, kaboom! A light went off. I was like, dude, everybody's gonna do seller financing. I'm not even gonna sell real estate anymore. I'm just gonna buy seller finance. So that was my goal. Lo and behold, it didn't happen. So on to deal story number 2. And the reason that I'm bringing that deal up and these other deals is because I do want you guys to understand that there's a component that usually we're missing. It's the belief, it's the mindset, it's the ask. If you don't ask, you won't know, right? If that lady hadn't asked me to buy her house, which usually I'm the one asking, but if she hadn't asked me, nothing would have clicked, right? And something clicked that day that I need to ask the question more often than not. So I'm going to move on to deal story number 2. I just completed this one. Thank you so much. I just completed this one. This is a 2-property. Basically, it's like a duplex, 2 houses on 1 property, both 2-bedroom, 1 bath. This is most recent. So even in these times, you can get seller finance and good deals. So this person came up to me. They used to work for my father back in the 80s. Obviously, they didn't work for me, but she's like my biggest raging fan. Does anybody know what a raging fan is? Somebody that when they hear the word real estate, they rush to you like there's a burning house on fire. And they say, I have somebody that wants to buy real estate and you're the person. That's the raging fan. So anyways, she's my raging fan. I never met her, but she knew of me. She knew of my family. She knew of my history. She knew of the legacy that was established prior to me. She brought this property. I said, perfect, we'll list it. Seems like a good property. We can probably put it on the open market for $365. It cash flows. Some investor that likes to buy retail and spend way too much money is going to buy that property. So she said, well, for tax purposes, we're not sure if we want to do that because we're 65 and it's going to fuck up our shit and we got the Social Security thing and blah, 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 blah. Why don't you just buy it? I was like, listen, lady, I love you. I don't know how you love me so much, but I do love you. But at 7%, at 365, that thing doesn't cash flow. She said, well, don't you do that creative shit? And I was like, well, I do that creative shit. So anyways, so I went to a lender. I talked it out. I talked it out with the lender. And I said, this is what I'm thinking. He said, yeah, I'm following. I was like, well, what if I did half seller finance and then half loan? That way it kind of diversifies their tax little break or whatever. He said, yeah, you could do that, but it still didn't pencil. It just didn't make sense. So I went back like Eeyore and I said, I'm sorry guys, I just can't buy it. I tried to figure out the numbers and it just doesn't make sense. And I think we're gonna have to put it on the market. They're like, there's gotta be another way. So the only way, oh God, I love myself sometimes. So I said, the only way is if you 100% seller finance it to me, and what that looks like is $1,000 a month, 3% interest, 15 grand down. The husband said, hell no. But they thought about it. They came back to me a little bit later. They said, what about 20 grand down, and we do at least what our mortgage was? And I was, well, what's your mortgage? And they said, $1,700 a month. So front unit, 2-bedroom, 1 bath, rented out for $1,000. Back unit rents out for $1,050. Back unit was built in 2010 with permits, code enforcement. So anyhow, I saw potential. I saw potential that I could increase the rents, and I said, we have something here. I think this is something that we can work on. So I integrated an agent from my office to do the paperwork because I'm lazy. And so I paid him a nice commission because I like to create win-wins for everybody so we can all win. And so he did the paperwork for me, and I bought it for 20 grand down, which still is a little bit more than I'd like, but it was already a cash flowing property that really didn't need to be renovated like I did, but I like my properties to be nice. So I just completed this one. My property manager in the back and power horse, Diana, she's already got a tenant. She's gonna place them for $1,600 a month in the front unit. And then we're increasing the rent slowly in the back. And it'll probably gross rents about $2,700. So $1,700 a month, 4% interest for 30 years, 30-year term. They're in their 70s. So what they wanna do is they wanna pass their note on to their family for generational wealth and income. So again, that was a win-win that was created for both parties. The reason that I bring that to head is because that's one of 9 seller finance opportunities that I've came across with my rental portfolio. So there's been a couple other ones, but the most important, the thing that I wanted to tell you guys is that was all established through relationships. These people trusted me. Even though I told them no, they came back to me with a reason or a why that I couldn't buy their property. They wanted me to figure it out. And more often than not, that's how I buy people's properties. It's through the relationships. It's through the relationships that we acquire other properties. It's through the relationships that we find properties. It's through the relationships that we become the people that we are. So I was telling someone earlier that you're one handshake away from changing your life, and it's true. Your network is your net worth. All these little cliche things are so important because Miracle Realty, Real Valley Dream Team, Bo Miracle's rental portfolio wouldn't be here today without the power of relationships. So if nothing else, find deals, expand your relationships while being here because it's so important. There's one other one that I want to tell you about because I have another deal story, which it's not usually good to talk about something that's pending because it could go sideways. So you guys all heard it today. If it goes sideways, at least you heard a good story. I'm buying the biggest seller finance transaction that I've ever bought on a commercial deal in downtown Fresno, 100% no money out of my pocket. So that's a 20-year term. And if I was to go to institution bank and do the financing, it would probably cost me about $18,000 a month. The way that I structured it, most people are like, we can't even type that up. So we had to go get an attorney. It was a little bit more complex, but I'll just give you the structure, okay? So 20-year term, 400,000 down from other people's money, private money. We're gonna borrow that money, so no money out of our pocket. That's the best strategy to get into real estate investing. 6 months, no payments. The remaining 6 months of that year, $7,500 a month, which the parking garage itself makes passively $7,500 a month. Wink, wink, that's why I did that. And then we're gonna do incremental price increases every year of $1,000 for 4 years until it caps out at $10,000. So it'll cap out at $10,000 for the remaining 14 years with an option to extend for another 20 years. So anyways, very nice way to get into a property that's worth probably about 2.5 million at a least path of resistance. I'm very, very proud of that structure, and if it goes sideways today, you guys heard it first. But at least I did this shit, because you don't know until you ask. And most of the time, this is my fault, is I put on realtor brain so often that I get lost in that and I don't ask. This guy asked me to buy his property too. I never asked. I didn't want a freaking building like that, but he said, why don't you buy it? Weed out the guy that brought the deal, kick your son out to the curb, because Dylan got it on a cold call, believe it or not. And so anyways, lo and behold, he asked me several times. I felt something there. I brought friends that I trust and like to come look at the property and possibly partner up, because I knew that I had a good deal. And when you have a good deal, people will come. People will participate. People will help. The people that are doing well in life, you guys, they want to see you succeed too. The haters are the ones that are usually not doing that well. And that's just the truth. And I was able to capture a situation on an opportunity on a commercial building the same way that I bought the one that I showed you in the very beginning. It doesn't matter the size. It doesn't matter. People are willing to do it because it makes sense if you do it correctly. There's always a way to find a deal and an opportunity, but you got to go out and ask for it. You got to go out and find it, and you got to go out and find the people that are doing it. Good realtors, good investors, good wholesalers. I'm going to put J-Rod on the spot, and I'm going to close it out. J-Rod, he works like another job, and he's a wholesaler, and he'll call Dylan, and he'll say, hey, man, can you just close this one for me? Dylan's like, yeah, whatever. He goes over and closes the deal. I mean, and that's an easy partnership, and that's an easy way to create a win-win. So if you have a freaking opportunity, if you don't like me, that's okay. If you don't like Dylan, reach out to Jason. If you don't like Jason, I don't know why. If you don't like Strat, same thing. Just find somebody that you guys like and trust, and I guarantee you guys can do a deal together. Okay? So connect with me. There's my thing, there's my tag, Bo Miracle on Instagram. It's been my great pleasure to be up here today and talk about my deal stories. I'm not boasting. I'm just letting you know that it's possible. I was in the same chair as most of the people here today, unknowing of how to find a deal. It seems so hard, the wheres, the whys, the what ifs. Dylan told you how to make a deal. I've talked to you about creatively deals, and then we have some other speakers that are going to talk about some other good stuff. So anyways, thank you guys, and hope you guys enjoy it. All right. Hey, thanks.
All right. Thank you, guys. You know what? I appreciate everybody coming. You are in Madera, so I just want to tell you this building is beautiful. When Kurt showed it to me, I did not believe it, but you guys are in Madera right now. So thank you guys for coming out to this event. It's because of people that got into this industry and are doing big things why we're here. Okay, years and years ago, when wholesaling and flipping wasn't even a big thing like today, my grandfather took me to properties and would make offers on houses when I was a little boy. And that's what got me into this business. I've had family in this business for all of my life, so naturally for me, it was that I was gonna land in this business, and thank God I did. I thank God every single day, but now things have changed. Now it's actually a mainstream business because of people like Jason and because of people like Bo. They are very welcoming to you starting in this business. And that's one thing that I love, because real estate has not always been that way. So you guys sitting in this room today, you guys are very fortunate that the information, there is no gatekeeping. Everybody can do the same things that we're doing, and this is why we're doing this today. This is why Dylan is not charging for his coaching class. I loved when he did that. I was like, okay, well, it's free. I love it. That's good. So guys, we've been around for a long time, and I'm gonna tell you guys a couple of different things that happened to me. So I've been in real estate lending for about 2 decades, and essentially what ends up happening is when I was a kid, getting into this industry, everybody told me, go buy real estate, right? So in about 2006, 2007, I went and I bought as much real estate as I could. And everybody knows what happened in 2008. And I lost 4 properties. I did short sales on 2, and I went into foreclosure on 2 other ones. They didn't have a home to live in. I had to move back with my parents. I was a young kid moving back with my parents. I felt like, oh my gosh, I failed. But there is no failure. There is no failure. There's only learning. And one of the things that I learned is that I did not have an exit strategy. And moving forward now, I understand how important is an exit strategy. And when we say exit strategy is, to me, arguably, it's the biggest piece in your guys' buying and investing piece. Because you can go in and buy a property, but do you have an exit strategy going out? That's the key. When I was a kid, I didn't have that exit strategy. And this is what took me into short selling on 2 properties and foreclosing on 2 other ones. But I learned from that. I learned greatly from those, we'll call them pitfalls, but actually they were learning lessons. Now today, I have 6 rentals, and all of them have ADUs. Right now the ADU craze is going crazy. Well, we've been building out ADUs before the craze. Like, this was something that my wife and I were doing before it became an actual popular thing. So of course, working with your city, working with your permits to build these out is the key for you to build out ADUs. But I had to have exit strategies for every property that I purchased, whether it be a flip or a wholesale property, okay? So let me tell you guys here, of course, what is an exit strategy? You have to know when you're going into a deal how you're gonna get out of this deal, okay? And we're gonna go over the categories of how to get out of deals when you're going into them. So we'll go over that together. But it basically is a burning building. Any fireman can tell you, hey, you know what, we're gonna go in there and we're gonna save this person from a burning building, but I can guarantee you every fireman has a way out. They always assess the situation going in, not coming out. If they go in not knowing how to get out, they're in big trouble. The same thing for an investor. You have to know your exit strategy going in, because you cannot go into a burning building and not know which way to get out. That's what happened to me. So basically what we're talking about is, of course, getting money and working with investors to buy the property and work the deal. That's the fun part. That's the fun part to me. Like, I love doing that. There's many nights that Bo and he calls me in the night and says, hey, Jose, I'm buying this property, but how do I get out of it? How do I refinance out of it? Or how do I, how am I going to be able to sell this property at the end? And that's what we're talking about here. When should you think about this? In my opinion, you should do this when you're analyzing your deal. So what Bo was referring to when he was giving you guys the examples of how he was buying these properties, essentially what he's doing an underwrite. He's doing an analysis of a property in order for him to purchase this property. But alongside with the analysis of you acquiring the property, you have to analyze how to structure your deal to get out, whether that be through refinance, whether that be through wholesaling, whether that be through flipping or seller financed, right? So exiting a strategy is not a one size fits all, okay? I cannot tell you that Bo's deal that he's doing with the pawn shop in Fresno, that is a big deal and it's not a one size fits all. Just the same way when you're buying a 2-bedroom, 1-bath property for you to flip versus a high luxury property, okay? We all start somewhere. I started doing 2-bedroom, 1-bath flips, okay? Now I've been able to get into buying $350,000, $400,000 flips because I understand my exit strategy and I understand how much my repairs are gonna be and how much I'm gonna be able to sell this property at the end, okay? So an exit strategy to me is probably one of the most important things that you guys can think about when doing this. So common strategies, so wholesale, and we have a couple wholesalers here. Basically, you're gonna tie up a property, contact the seller, make sure that there's margin in the deal, and you're gonna sell them the paper. So way back when, it was even called wholesaling, we used to call it selling paper. So this was back in the 2000s, we used to call it selling paper. Because essentially what you're doing is you're going into contract with a seller at a margin and selling it to another investor. That is wholesaling. That is an exit strategy. So I'll tell you guys a story. My first ever wholesale, because back then it was selling paper, was in 2009. So this is right after 2008, everything was falling apart. But I met this older gentleman named Mr. Miller. And Mr. Miller had a pain point. He did not want to sell his property on the market because he had family that knew that we're gonna fight over the money that he was gonna get. So I spoke to him and I said, hey, Mr. Miller, how is it that I can help you? And he says, well, Jose, you go ahead and buy the property. And at that time, in 2009, 2010, I did not understand, at that point still, how to flip and how to fix and hold yet. So I said, well, you know what? I will go into contract with him and I will find another investor. That was my first ever wholesale deal. That first ever wholesale deal has opened many, many doors for me because I figured out how this works through wholesaling and now through fix and flip and fix and hold. On that deal, I actually came out by flipping paper or doing the wholesale, I came out $12,000 in the black here. So all I did was I acquired the property or by signing a contract and I assigned it to somebody else. That is an exit strategy. In that case, it worked. I couldn't tell you that at that moment in time, I knew that I had an exit strategy. I didn't understand what I was really doing at that time, but I knew that I can do something. So this was a 1 acre property with a mobile home. And my dad he swore to me, he's like, what are we gonna do with this? Like, I don't know what you're doing here, Jose. Like, I feel like you're repeating the same trend that you did in 2005, 6, and 7. You're gonna lose this property. But I had the belief in myself that I can sell it to somebody else, and I did. I was able to do that. Another one is flipping. So I'm a flipper. I love to flip properties. Let me tell you why, because it's residual money coming in. And I love to analyze the deal. I love to go into a property, find out what is it that I can do to this property to make it beautiful and to resell it to another first-time home buyer. It works for both my businesses. It works for my flipping business and it works for my first-time home buyers that I'm lending to. So I actually killed 2 birds with 1 stone on the flips that I do. So essentially what happens is that I find a property that needs a lot of work and I go into contract with that property, and I go ahead and have my rehab costs, and I know this is something that Dylan pencils out all his numbers. We do the same thing. They do worksheets, I actually pencil them out. It just makes more sense to me to pencil it out, and I know my rehab cost in order for me to have my after repair value and sell this property. That's what I love to do. So when we talk about wholesalers, you know, I love talking to wholesalers because wholesalers are the ones that are bringing me properties. I love talking to real estate agents because they bring me properties as well. So I can, in turn, flip them and make a profit on the other side. Very profitable. And of course, there's tax repercussions and all that. I don't want you guys to think that it's all free money. I mean, you have taxes in there. Another thing is, of course, we talked about seller financing. Seller financing to me is the gold standard. I mean, if a seller is willing to carry the note and be the bank, that is a game changer because at which point you are paying back the seller that loan to them. And at which point you can actually be more interactive with what your terms are, right? So when I go and talk to a seller about seller financing, And if, let's just say the going rate is 7.5%, I can dictate that. I can say, hey, listen, I know the going rate right now is 7.5%, but all I can pay you is 7% right now. And give me the option to refinance in the future, so like that I can get a better term in the future as well. At which time you can also have an exit strategy to refinance that property into a 30-year fix. The biggest deals that I've done, I've converted into 30-year fixes. I bought a property in Chowchilla from a gentleman that was losing it. He owed $24,000 in taxes. I went into contract with him. I paid the $24,000. So like that, it wouldn't get taken by the county. And I gave him $100,000 for me to buy this property. So I bought this 2,400 square foot home for $124,000. It needed a lot of repairs to it. I got private money from an investor friend that I had. They gave me all of the money, the $124,000 plus the rehab, and then I converted into a 30-year fixed. So to me, I'm cash flowing in the front, and I actually created an ADU and gave the gentleman that was losing the property a life estate on the back of the property. He lives there rent-free. So to me, those are win-wins all the way around. This guy has cancer, and he loves me. Every time that he calls me, he says, you saved me from living in my car. And he helped me. At the end of the day, I told him, you helped me. Because now I have generational wealth for my family, and I created something for him and something for us in our portfolio. So there could be a win-win for everybody, okay? But I had an exit strategy. I knew that if I buy this property, I cannot keep it for so long. My hard money, or my lender, my private lender, was only gonna give me 6 months in order for me to turn this back around. But I said, you know what, if I can fix this property, I'm gonna do my own refinance and convert it into a 30-year fix. I converted it into a 30-year fix, and I'm cash flowing on that property every single month. So to me, it's a win-win to work with people that are distressed in that regard, because you can win for him and win for you, okay? And this is actually still a thing, I just wanna tell you guys. So back in the day, in the 2000s, they used to report the tax delinquencies in the newspaper, okay? This actually still happens. You can find tax delinquencies to go work with them. And all I did was I found the tax delinquency and I went to his door. I knocked on the door. And of course, he owed $24,000 in taxes. He thought that I was the tax guy coming and retrieving the property, but I wasn't. Basically what I was doing is I came to help him. At that moment in time, he didn't want to talk to me because he felt bad. He's like, I owe this money. I don't want to open the door. Come to find out, this guy was a friend of mine from years and years ago, and he finally opens the door and we were able to talk. So the humanity of you going and talking to somebody and coming up with a situation to help them can benefit them and benefit you. Exit strategy, you can find that exit strategy. So we talked about seller financing. Seller financing, again, is the gold standard in my opinion, because you can work with a seller and basically acquire their property at an interest rate, and you don't sometimes have to come in with some money. So there's been times that I've acquired a property where I don't put any money down. So I say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and give you an interest rate of 8.5%, better than the going market, but I don't have any money to put down for you. Are you willing to sell me your property? It's tied by a deed of trust, so they're gonna make their money back. So at the end of the day, they're okay as long as I ask the question, are you okay with me not giving you any money up front? So all I did was sign my name onto loan docs. I'm the one that actually helped them with the loan docs as well. So it worked out all the way around where I got seller financing on that end as well. So that was an exit strategy for me going in, because I bought the property and he's my lender. He gets a residual every single month that's going to a P.O. box, and the tenant is paying that bill. It goes from the tenant to my company to the seller finance deal, and that house is gaining equity every single year. So those are win-wins for everybody in this room that can say, okay, well, as long as I'm creative on how to find a deal and then exit a deal, there are always deals out there for you to be able to find. And I was just talking to Bo about this, we have to make offers. When you're trying to find these, not every offer is gonna hit. You have to make offers, and you have to be true to your model of buying in order for you to acquire a property. There's been some times that I'm too low. Like I try to make an offer, somebody beats me out, there's another investor that maybe has more money than me and they end up acquiring the property, I'm okay with it. I tried my best, it didn't work out, it didn't pencil out for me that way, I moved on. I'll move on to the next one. So lastly, what you guys can do in order to exit a transaction is, of course, we talked about refinancing the property. Right now, more than ever, of course, interest rates are a little bit on the higher side, but you have to focus on what the rent's coming in, right? If you can at least make a little bit of money after you make your payment and your rent's coming in, you're gonna be okay. You're not cash flowing a lot of money, but you put that into a 30-year fix. And even more now, for investors, and this is something that you guys should know, is there are 40-year loans, okay? I'm not suggesting that you guys stay in a 40-year loan on an investment property. What I'm suggesting is that you can cash flow a little bit better on a 40-year loan, and then in turn, in the future, when rates come down, you can actually get a better term. So for me, doing a 40-year loan, knowing that a tenant's gonna pay the property, it doesn't really bother me. It doesn't really bother me. And honestly, interest rates don't bother me either. As an investor, I look at the interest rate, and of course, interest rates are high. But as long as I can cash flow, I don't care that the interest rate is 8.5%. I really don't. Because I know that I can cash flow on this property and in the future be able to refinance. But that's come with time. It didn't happen overnight. Because when I first started this business, I would look at the interest rate so terribly, finite, because it was hard for me to justify that I was going to pay a 7% rate on an investment property. But as time went on and more properties that I've done, I've been more susceptible to say, hey, you know what, it's okay. It's okay to get an 8.5%, 9% rate because the tenant is actually paying that mortgage. Therefore, I'm gaining an equity on that hold. And for me, it's a long-term play. So there's many models that you guys can model after: wholesaling, fix and flip, fix and hold. The model that you guys choose as an investor and what you guys want to go down that path is for you to choose. This is the wonderful thing about this business, is that you choose the path that you want to go. And not one path is the only path. You can do 3, 4 different paths. Whatever you find in a property, you can figure out what path you want to go in there. There's been some properties that, of course, I look back now and I think to myself, maybe I shouldn't have flipped that one. Maybe I should have held that one, Because you think, oh my gosh, that property, now I look back and it's gained so much in equity. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I hold that one? But at the time, it helped me because I was able to take that money from a flip and invest it into something else, whether it be crypto, whether it be an IRA, whether it be wherever I needed to invest it. So I don't just invest the money that I do in flips in one section. I'm diversified to figure out where my money is going. So on top of that, what I like to do, and my business changed when I started working with investors. I do not use my own money to flip. I do not use my own money for fix and holds. I use investor money, okay? I pay them an interest rate, 8.5%, 9%, to give me this money for me to, flip a property, and then I pay them back when my flip is completed. I don't have a monthly payment on that money, and they make money. The investor makes money as well. And this is a crazy, crazy story. My wife and I had a baby in 2023. The best investors that I've had were 2 nurses, and I met them at the hospital. Isn't that crazy? So I spoke to them about, real estate investing. They said, hey, I don't have time to do this, but we do have money. So they've actually let me borrow money on 2 flips, and it's worked out great. They're happy, we're happy, and we're looking for our next flip, as we speak right now. And they're eager. They're calling me now. Hey, Jose, I'm ready to invest. Are you ready do you have a property that we can invest in? There are 2 nurses from Clovis community that are working with us. So don't ever think that you can't find money. You can find money, it's just you have to ask the right questions, okay? And we have other investors that we work with, real estate agents that we work with, that understand that all of this money is tied by a deed of trust. Therefore, if you speak to them and say, hey, listen, I'm willing to give you money at an 8.5% rate, 9% rate on an annualized rate, more than what your bank's gonna give you for us to borrow money and flip with that money. They actually are benefiting because they're making more money on a short-term loan than for them to have it in a CD, let's just say, So it's limiting beliefs. You have to make sure that you understand that the world doesn't work the way we think. The way we grew up is, hey, work hard, save your money and buy a property, right? To me, it was backwards. I said, how can this be? There's no way that people are making millions and millions of dollars on saving money and buying a property. It just doesn't make sense to me. There has to be a better way. And seller investors that give you money, that's the way for me. That's what it's worked out. That's why my business took a jump, because I was able to talk to investors to give me this money for me to do what I need to do. And people say it all the time. Jason says it all the time. Hey, you know what? I use other people's money. OPM for me to find real estate for me to buy. That's the truth. It happens every day. So don't let limited beliefs saying, hey, you know what? I can't find any money. There is money out there. Even in this market, there is money out there. And actually more now than ever, because people want to invest because they're scared of what's happening in the stock market. They're scared of what's happening in the economy. Well, what do I do with my money? I have to invest this money in order for me to make more money. So right now, more than ever, there's actually more money now than before, believe it or not. So anyways, what I wanted to do is I wanted to share these experiences with you guys. I wanted to tell you guys that don't listen to limiting beliefs. I'm a little kid from Chowchilla. If I can do it when I was young at 22, 23 years old, you guys can do it today. Thank you guys.
All right, so thank you, Jose. Now you guys know how to find deals. I do some seller financing. Exit strategies are super, super important, guys. Finding deals is the most important piece, but you have to make sure you guys have proper access whenever we're buying deals. You want to make sure that you can wholesale out of it, maybe flip it, hold it. These are the things you need to be thinking about once you actually have the deal under contract. Even before maybe doing that, you want to underwrite and make sure you have the right exit. So thank you, Jose. Another round of applause for Jose. Now, I know for some of us that have not done deals, the finding money piece is one of the hardest parts. It sounds really nice. Bo's raising private money. Dylan's raising private money. Jose's using private money. These are established. Jason is a huge person that raises private money. He does a really good job on that. But I know a lot of that, for myself at least, when I was getting started, it sounded really nice because it's good for you. Well, there is ways to fund your deals that don't have to be using other people's money from when you're not ready to pitch them, okay? Zinc Financial here is a sponsor today. They are a lending institution that lets people borrow money to fund their deals. So that's a great resource on how to do that. So I would like to welcome Zinc Financial. Everyone make sure you start so it feels extra awkward. Maybe one more round of applause.
Hi everybody. I wasn't told I was speaking today, so I only have a lot to prepare. Basically, Zinc Financial, we're probably my lender. We have our own funds, so we can consider in-house. We can custom underwrite, write some deals that might fit with other lenders. Not fit their box, we can take a look at it and find it fit through us. We also make 10 business days. We're pretty aggressive here in Central Valley. We're located in Fresno. For beginning investors in Central Valley, we can make at 50% down. For experienced investor, all the way up to 70% down. Yeah, we do fix and flip loans, DSCR rentals, long-term investments. Our loan officers will take a file from beginning to end. We could babysit the entire way, so you get that personal experience. And that's it for now. I don't really know. I don't have any parents yet.
And now that I realize that he didn't know he was speaking, I think he did a pretty damn good job. We're awkwardly coming up here and getting put on the spot. So good job. Round of applause again. Zinc Financial is a great resource. We're using them all to cover our own deals. So they're definitely a good resource. If you guys can find a deal, Zinc Financial, other hard money lending institutions is the perfect way to fund those deals. So for the next piece of this segment, the last speaker has built honestly a real estate mentality for a lot of us to look up to. He's been the pinnacle for us on how we operate for business in terms of giving more than we take. This guy is a perfect example of that. A quick story I want to say, he's the first person that I ever met in real estate. Most of what he said went over my head, and I remember from that meeting that he had some freaking swag. He was in a cool office, and he just gave everything he had that he knew about real estate to me. Most of it went over my head, and I was like, that shit's cool, I want to do that. One thing that he told me a year and a half ago, he probably doesn't remember this, but wherever I went, he was there. And I was doing commercial real estate, I was trying to make it, I hadn't made much money, I was still in credit card debt. And I was like, dude, all my friends are like, having jobs, they're out partying and stuff. He told me, he said, keep your head down, keep doing the things that you're doing. Check the scoreboard later. So I want to welcome to the stage, Jason Pritchard.
Thank you guys. Thank you everybody for coming. I know it's Saturday and I want to make sure we provide as much value as we possibly can. I'll start while we're getting the slides ready, just giving a brief introduction about myself. So those of you guys that don't know, my name's Jason Pritchard. Started in real estate 2013, 2014. Prior to that, I worked in corporate America. Spent 15 years in corporate America. I'm from Fresno. My dad was a teacher. My mom stayed at home, raised me and my little sister, and I had a pretty normal upbringing growing up. Thank you very much. Did anybody else have just kind of a normal upbringing when they were growing up, right? That was me, okay? And Jose brought something up that I thought was important, right? We're talking about limiting beliefs, and I'm gonna discuss that and talk about the belief systems that are instilled in us as we're growing up in our environment from our family and friends. And I was always taught, go to school, go to college, graduate from college, work really hard, right? And when we're 60, 70, 80 years old, we can retire and then sail off into the sunset, right? And I subscribe to that thought process. Did anybody else get taught that when they were younger? I did. And I subscribed to that thought process, and I found myself in a space in my early 30s when I was 32, 33, and I was really unhappy with my life. I was just looking around at my coworkers. I was looking around at what I had accomplished, and I just thought that I was put on this earth to do more than what I was doing at that moment in my life. Does anybody else experience that? Is anybody else going through that right now? Let's be vulnerable. Is anybody kind of feeling that a little bit right now, right? I know exactly how you're feeling, okay? And I always wanted to do real estate. I always was intrigued by the idea of doing it, but I let those limiting beliefs, I let that little voice in my head kind of get really loud and always talk me out of, no, don't bet on yourself, don't do that, don't take a chance. And in 2012, I reached this transitionary point in my life, and I just sat down and I talked with my wife and I said, you know what? If I don't do this right now, I'm probably never gonna do it. And I burned all the boats. I went full-time into real estate investing in 2014, and in the last 10 years, we've flipped 450 houses. I've done about that many transactions on the agent side of the business. We own a rental portfolio of just north of 100 properties. Most of those are here in Central California. But more importantly than all of that, times, right? We get up in the morning, we're so inundated in the same routine. We wake up at the same time, we put our clothes on, we drive in our car, we somehow magically show up at work, we work all day, come back home, sit in front of Netflix, and then rinse and repeat over and over, and then you end up like Jason in his cubicle when I was 32 years old, wondering, how the fuck did I get here, and how do we start to make some changes, okay? So the first thing that I need you guys to understand is you're in control of how you think every single day, and you need to be more intentional with your thought process, okay? When you find yourself just floating through life, that's never gonna get you to where you wanna go. You have to be intentional, okay? So let's use some real world examples of positive, negative thinking, and then I'm gonna give you first the framework thinking. What does that look like? What would be an example of how we take an inventory of our thought process? Journaling, writing it down, right? Even having like an inner discussion and dialogue as it's happening. A thought pops into my head, maybe it's a negative one. You become self-aware and you realize you're having that thought. The next step is like, why did I think that? What's going on? What caused me to feel or think this thing? Okay, so taking in inventory is number 2, okay? Number 3, we've got to be intentional, okay? We've got to be intentional about replacing it with a different type of thought, a different type of belief system, okay? So taking inventory and account of what's going on is important, but if we're not intentional about doing something different, then we're just gonna repeat that process over and over and over again, okay? So let's use this as a real estate example, right? Has anybody been in the real estate? How many real estate professionals do we have in the room? A lot of people, okay? Has anybody gone through a dry spell in their business? You gone 2, 3, 4 months, you haven't closed a deal? right? And you're working really hard every day. You're doing all of the things that you think you should be doing, okay? You're going on the appointments. Sellers aren't signing your agreements. They're not agreeing to do the listing. The buyer doesn't want to buy the house, whatever. What is the typical negative thought process that happens after you've been working your ass off for month and month and month on end, and we don't get the outcome we want? What's an example of how we would think in that type of situation? I suck. I suck. What, something must be wrong with me because I'm on social media or I come to this event and Bo's doing all these seller finance deals. Dylan's in his early 20s doing all this crazy stuff. Something must be wrong with me, right? What else? Am I doing the right thing? What else? Maybe this isn't for me, right? We start second guessing, self-doubt, fear, worry, all of those things, right? What would be a way? First, we're becoming self-aware, right? Now we're taking inventory of it. What would be a way to intentionally change that thought process with the same exact example? Nothing has changed, okay? The outcome that we're getting is exactly the same, okay? We've been working for 3 months, haven't closed a deal, haven't made any money, but what can we do and what can be a different thought process that we can recreate? Okay, I heard the word affirmations, we're gonna get to that, but think about this specific example, right? We're taking inventory of what's going on, and now we have the opportunity to be intentional about changing that thought pattern. So what thought pattern can we instill in that moment instead of saying, I suck, this isn't for me, this is never gonna happen? What's a different thought pattern that we can put in there? Go ahead.
Setting actionable steps to progress.
Okay, so setting actionable steps to progress. What else? I love that. Man, I'm putting in all this work, and even though the outcome that I want, the result, maybe not here yet, I know it's coming because every appointment that I go on, I'm getting better, right? That was great. What else? Persistence. I'm being persistent, and I'm building up this persistence muscle in my business. So even though the outcome isn't necessarily what I want, I know that it's coming, and by being persistent every single day, I know I'm gonna get there even faster than if I wasn't. Yes? If it was easy, everybody else would do it. I love that. I love that. Do you guys think that making millions and millions of dollars in real estate is going to be easy? No? No. I didn't sign up for this business, and I think that, right? And so you bring up a good point. Does anybody follow Alex Hormozi on social media? He's one of my favorite follows on social media. So if you guys don't know who this guy is, look up Alex Hormozi. And he said a thing that I was watching in a podcast interview he did the other day. And he said, this is what hard feels like, right? So when we signed up to be a real estate professional, did we think it was going to be easy or did we think it was going to be hard? I thought it was going to be hard. I was like, shit, this is going to be a lot of work. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have any money. I don't have any of this stuff. This is going to be hard. And 3 months of working every single day, not making any money, that's what hard feels like. Okay? So you're not doing anything wrong. This is just the natural progression of that process. And you get to think, you get to choose how you think about that outcome, right? So I encourage you guys when you're, especially in those down moments, okay? And we're gonna talk about feelings in a second, and your feelings are like your internal GPS. So if you feel down, you have to take one step back and go back to your thought pattern and think, why am I feeling like this? And then you have to reprogram the story that you tell yourself. And what I would encourage you guys to believe and walk away with today is we get to tell ourselves whatever story we decide to tell ourselves. And if you choose to have a powerful story, a story that gets you to your goals faster, I think your life will be better than being negative. And I was one of the most negative people that I've ever met, man. I was very pessimistic, very negative, very skeptical. And I've spent more work doing stuff like this than I ever have learning how to be a real estate investor, okay? Harnessing positive thoughts. So what can we do? We talked about overcoming limiting belief systems. Very first thing that I think we can do, and I'm big on this, is having clarity in your goals. If you don't know exactly what you want to do, anywhere where you end up on the destination is going to be fine. Does that make sense? Is that a fair thing to ask? If we don't know where we're going, wherever we end up is wherever we decide to end up. Okay? So what would be an example of in the next 12 months, here's a very clear goal that I want to accomplish in my real estate business. What would that look like?
It could be monetary.
Could be monetary. Could be, what else? Say it again? Appointments, right? Here's an example that I would give. I'm in real estate investing, okay? That's my main focus, right? I would say, if I'm new to the business, I want to do 10 deals. They could be fix and flip, they could be wholesales, they could be wholesales, but I want to do 10. And I want to make $500,000 from those 10 deals. So in order for me to make $500,000, how much money per deal do I need to generate? $50,000, right? How many deals a month do I need to do to accomplish 10 deals in 12 months? A little bit less than one, right? So now I have a very clear goal and a target to hit, right? So if you don't have very clear goals, right now I would take some time and start thinking internally, what is it that I want to do, and start penciling that stuff out. So it starts with clarity of goals, okay? Other ways to overcome limiting belief systems, affirmations and visualizations, okay? Do we realize that most of our belief systems, when it comes to money, when it comes to our ability to be successful, when it comes to anything in life, those are usually not our own belief systems? Do you guys follow what I'm saying? Okay? It comes from our parents, it comes from our teachers, it comes from our family, friends, our environments. They instill their belief systems into us, and we just decide to adopt them, whether or not they're congruent or aligned with where we want to go right now. And one of the biggest reasons why we will constantly find ourselves not doing the things that we know we're supposed to be doing every day is because subconsciously we have these old belief systems. And I want you guys to start thinking about your brain like a computer. And your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions are the things that program your computer. So you have to be very intentional about what you do, okay? So when I was first starting in this business, I sat down with a guy that was a mentor to me, and he told me, he goes, dude, I want you to write all your goals down. Then I want you to take your goals and I want you to say them out loud while you're looking yourself in the mirror every single morning. And I was like, fuck, this is a little weird, dude. It felt like it was like a little weird, and then it was like I was a little skeptical. And I was like, I did that, and I was like, dude, this doesn't really, like, this is, I don't know. This is probably like whatever. And I caught myself and I said, this guy's doing everything that I want to do. He took time out of his day to sit down with me and give me the recipe for what he felt created his success. And I'm here trying to change that recipe up. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of people make, is they take this proven model, and because of their skepticism, because of their limiting beliefs, because of their negative mindset, they try to move the things around that we already know that are proven to work, right? And so you guys don't have to take my word about any of this stuff. You can look at The Rock, you can look at Oprah, you can look at any Fortune 500 CEO, and all of them will say some variation of what I'm talking about right up here today. So again, if you're not living your dream life right now, ask yourself, what's it going to hurt to try to do some of this type of stuff, right? So for me, here's what I do. As part of my morning routine, I have my goals. I write them down every single day. And then I affirm them out loud in front of a mirror while I'm looking myself in the mirror. It's gonna feel weird, but just do it anyways, okay? Then I have a visualization exercise, and visualization is one of the most powerful tools to help bring all of this stuff together. I have created a mental movie of what my goals are in the long-term future, and I sit down for 5 minutes quietly, this is before everybody gets up in my house, and I literally just go through that mental movie in my head, okay? And the trick with the visualization is how you feel, okay? You have to come from a place of feeling like all this stuff has already happened, right? So it's not, I want this. It's not that I want to be a millionaire. The I want to be a millionaire is different than feeling like I'm a millionaire, okay? And skeptical Jason said, show me $1 million in my bank account and then I'll be a millionaire. And Jason, 10 years now, that knows a little bit better, knows that we have to be millionaires first internally before we will ever see $1 million in our bank. And that's just how it works. I don't know why it works like that. That's just it. So you have to focus on eliciting that feeling every single day, guys. And this is an exercise. This isn't, you're not gonna go affirm this tomorrow and then your life is gonna magically be different 30 days later, okay? We're changing these things that have been ingrained in us over our entire life. So this is gonna take a little bit of time, okay? So work on writing your goals down, getting clarity, okay? Affirming them out loud in the first person like they're already done, and go through a simple visualization exercise. Do that consistently. The more that you do it, the more you're gonna start seeing some changes, okay? All right, let's talk about impact of feelings. So the first one's thoughts, second one's feelings, okay? Here's something that's taken me a little bit of time to kind of reconcile, but it made my life easier once I come to grips with this. Have you ever had a situation happen in your business where, man, I have this deal that's getting ready to close. We had it in escrow for a new buyer. Couple days before the deal's getting ready to close, buyer backs out. Now I'm all stressed, right? Or you run into somebody, they say something, and you say, man, this person made me feel this way. Can anybody or any situation or anything that happens in your life make you feel anything? Can anybody make you feel anything? No. The answer is no. I cannot make Jose feel anything, okay? I may say something to him, and then he gets to choose how he responds to that, okay? That's one of the biggest takeaways that I think if you're struggling right now and you kind of find yourself on an emotional roller coaster a lot, where you're riding really high and then other days you're low and then you're up or down, it's because you're allowing the things or the people in your life to impact you instead of you having control over the way that you think, right? So what's step number one in changing how we feel? We said it earlier. Self-awareness, okay? So how do we start changing the way that we feel when we feel like this old bad emotion's coming up? Somebody says something to me and it makes me upset, right? We have to be self-aware, okay? Now feelings, for me, managing your feelings, this is the exercise that's worked well for me. When something happens and these old bad habits, these old belief systems kick in and I start feeling negative and I start being reactive to the outcomes that happen in my life instead of controlling them, the number one thing that I like to do is just be still for a second, okay? Just stop for 1 second and know and realize that the way that you feel is gonna pass, okay? And does anybody follow Andrew Huberman? Does anybody know who Andrew Huberman is? I really, really like Andrew Huberman, and he said a thing that really connected with me. When we're feeling a certain way, sometimes we want to go here, and what he suggests is controlling your physiology, right? Controlling your body. And as soon as you learn how to control your body and get your body to calm down, then those feelings and those emotions start to dissipate. So an exercise that I like to use, once I am self-aware and I catch myself feeling a way that I don't want to feel, Huberman does this, and let's all try this, okay? It's a double inhale through our nose and a slow exhale out. Looks like this. Everybody do that for a second. Whenever you're mad, whenever you're upset, whenever something goes on, take 30 seconds and do 5 to 10 of those, okay? Just be still, realize that this thing is going to pass, and a slow exhale out. And tell me if you don't feel better after 30 seconds. At the very bare minimum, you're going to be a little bit more calm, and you're going to be in a place where we can do what? What's the second step after self-awareness? Taking an inventory of how we feel. What would taking an inventory of how we feel in that moment look like? Why did this happen, right? What was this situation? Like, did I put myself in this situation, or is this other person doing it? If it's outside of my control, why am I allowing this person to make me feel that way, right? And a lot of times we have this preconceived notion about why a person did a thing to us without knowing what that other person is going through in their life. Does that make sense? We just say, this person's a fucking asshole, they did blah, 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 and we have no clue what's going on in their lives, right? They could be dealing with a really hard time. They could be dealing with a lot of pressure and stress, and we like to put labels on those type of situations to justify how we're feeling, okay? So step 1, self-awareness. Step 2, okay, taking inventory. Step 3, be intentional about replacing that feeling with something else, okay? Thoughts, feelings, last one, actions. Okay? I'm a big believer in law of attraction. I did not used to be, but I am now. Everything that I have, every outcome in my life that I have right now, all the amazing things that I'm experiencing, I attribute it to law of attraction, okay? Law of attraction for me, you have to have 3 things in place, right? And I think this is where people get skeptical about it, right? You think you can just sit down and think that I'm a millionaire, I can feel like I'm a millionaire, and then we just sit and we wait for $1 million to drop out of the sky, and it has proven to me that it doesn't work like that, okay? You actually have to fucking do some work. So if you're not getting up and doing the work every day, none of the other things that I'm talking about are going to matter, right? So we have to subscribe to the work, and we have to have a really strong work ethic, okay? So our actions typically reflect our thoughts and feelings. So if our thoughts and feelings are in alignment, usually our actions will follow there. So controlling those 2 things are really important. Consistency and persistency are very important with your actions. If you're not getting up every single day and doing the things that you should be doing every day and persisting over a long period of time, you're probably not going to get the outcome that you want, okay? Your actions have to be aligned with your goals. What are examples? What is everybody looking for in this room? I heard somebody say deals. Freedom, right? You want to be better, you want to have knowledge, okay? Relationships. For me, all the amazing things that we've accomplished have started by getting great at finding deals, because deals to me is the very first domino that has to fall before a lot of these other things can start falling, okay? So if we want to be great deal finders, what type of actions should we be focusing on every single day? Networking. Say it again. Getting involved. What else? Prospecting. There's the one. Who likes to cold call in this room? I don't know if all you guys like to cold call. I actually like cold calling, but it sucks though. Am I right? I mean, even if like deep down at a certain level it's nice and it's fun, nobody likes to make hundreds and hundreds of phone calls every single day, get their teeth kicked in on the phone by sellers every single day, and then wake up the very next morning and want to do it again, right? Like, nobody likes that. Nobody likes knocking on a bunch of doors, getting a door slammed in your face. But guess what? What did we say? Did we think this was going to be hard, or we think it was going to be easy? This is the hard that you guys get to pick. You see what I'm saying? And so you're choosing your hard. Align your actions up with whatever your goals are. So if your goal is to do more deals, all the things that you should be doing every day should be aligned with doing more deals, okay? So you've got to have an inventory of that. So here's how I like to control the actions that I'm doing every day. My best days are the ones that I plan the night before, okay? I'm very, very big on time management. I'm very big on managing my schedule. And I'm a big believer, if we don't manage our schedule manages us. And when we wake up every day without a plan for what we're going to do, you end up being reactive to everything that happens. All you're doing is being a firefighter. That's it. Fire pops up, you're running over and taking care of it, instead of anticipating these things and doing the things that you should be doing every single day in order to do that. I've got a simple 1-page PDF planner. I'm happy to share that with any of you guys that you want it, where I break out my day into the 3 most important tasks that I need to do that day. No matter what, I make the commitment to myself that I'm not going to bed without doing these 3 things. So as soon as I write those 3 things down, I'm making a commitment to myself that I'm doing them. On the bottom, I have all the other miscellaneous tasks. It's just like a brain dump exercise. It's like, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. Anything that goes on the bottom, if I don't finish it that day, I just circle it and it moves to the top of the list of to-do things for the next day, so I don't lose track of what I have to do, okay? So I'm making a commitment to myself to doing the 2 or 3 most important things. Everything else on the list, if I get to it, it's okay. If not, I just want to organize it so I don't lose track. You have to start making a commitment that those 3 things, there's 2 or 3 things every day, and those 2 or 3 things should be aligned with what's most important in your business. So if it's important for you to be finding deals, then those things should be around prospecting, right? Marketing, networking, those types of things, right? And this is a really sad thing, but it's true. People will typically, and I'm a person that falls into this trap too. we will break a promise to ourselves before we break a promise to somebody else. Does anybody else have that problem? If somebody calls me up right now, even if I'm in the middle of doing something and Corey's like, hey, Jason, I need your help with X, Y, and Z, I will literally drop whatever I'm doing and I will bend over backwards to help Corey, right? But if I tell myself, I'm gonna get up tomorrow morning and I'm gonna cold call from 9 to 11, right? And there's nobody there to hold me accountable, I'm gonna come up, let me go get some coffee, let me go use the restroom really quick, let me go check my email really quick, let me send this text message, then it's 10:15 and I haven't done anything, and then it's like, well, I'll just cold call tomorrow, okay? We've got to get good and we've got to be better at keeping the promises and the commitments that we make to ourselves. And the way that I like to do that is writing it down. Something very powerful happens when we write these things down. It registers in our brain a different way than just thinking about that we're going to do it or saying to ourselves, right? So be in the habit every single day of writing this stuff down, okay? Time management and prioritization is very important. I use Google Calendar. It's completely free. Everything is time blocked, right? And the most important thing that you need to manage as far as your schedule goes is all the white space. So like, here's an example of how I set my calendar up the day before. I sit down and I do my planner. Then I look at my schedule. And half of my day is usually already booked out with team meetings or coaching calls or just different commitments that I've made. All the area of opportunity is in the white space on your calendar. Do you guys follow what I'm saying? It's those blank areas that are not already pre-planned. And the best thing that you can do to manage your time and make sure you're not wasting it is by taking inventory of what's happening in that white space. And most of us are fooling ourselves thinking that we're busy when we're really just bullshitting, not doing anything, okay? So take inventory, and I do this every day, and I've done it every day for 10 years. So I know that this doesn't take more than 5 minutes cumulatively throughout the entire day. All of us have 5 minutes. Plan your night the night before, plan your day the night before, and then every 2 or 3 hours, okay, take an inventory of what you did in that white space, right? So if I had a 90-minute block of time from 11 to 12:30, at about 1 or 2 o'clock, I want to go back, block that out, and I just want to put a list of all the things that I did there, right? And if you do that exercise every single day at the end of the week, you can go back and you can see, here's what I pre-planned, here's what came up, and in that white space, did I do very well, and was I efficient with my time, or did I waste it? Was I doing actions and doing things that were getting me closer to my goal, or was I not, right? That's what taking inventory and then being better looks and feels like. The next week, you're saying, wow, you know, I had 60 minutes where I was gonna go post on Instagram because I wanted to create some content, but I just got sucked into the algorithm, and then I looked up an hour later and then I didn't do that. Does that happen? That happens to me all the time, right? And we've got to be honest with ourselves and realize we did it, okay? And what are we going to do to change? And that's the only way that you do it, is you start taking inventory of that stuff. Here's some practical tips, tools, other things to go. I said none of this stuff was going to cost anything. I'm going to recommend 3 books. Those are going to cost. I'll buy them for you if you don't want to spend any money, okay? These are 3 books that really changed my life. One of them, it's called the Project 369 Journal, okay? So if I've always had problem journaling, and just sitting in front of a white piece of paper, it was kind of hard for me to figure out what am I going to write down here. It was not a fun exercise for me. This was a really good structured journal that allows me to follow a format of how I can set my goals and write my goals out, right? So that would be something that I would recommend, Project 369 Journal. I would recommend 2 other books. One, Miracle Morning. Has anybody read Miracle Morning? Miracle Morning is a great book to establish a morning routine. I'm a very big believer in realizing we have to fill our cup every day before we can fill somebody else's cup. Do you guys understand what I'm saying, right? Everything that we do in our life is going to require energy. And if our battery is empty constantly all the time, how are we going to charge anybody else's battery, right? It just doesn't make any sense. So that time that you have in the morning is the way that you ensure that you're filling your gas tank up every single day, so you have the energy for your business, for your family, for your kids, for all of that stuff, right? So if you have a problem with morning routine, read Miracle Morning, just follow it right out of the book, okay? You're going to have to wake up 1 hour earlier than you've normally been waking up. And don't lie to me and tell me that you don't have an hour. You do. Go to bed 1 hour earlier, right? Figure it out. Okay, Miracle Morning's number 2, Project 369, Miracle Morning. Last one's called Atomic Habits. Okay, Atomic Habits is really good. What I really like, and you don't even need to get the book, I think the book is great, but you can go right to the website of the author and you can download their habit tracker. Okay, Atomic Habits has this free habit tracker, and those are another thing that I do all the time. And we put and list on the left-hand side all of the habits that should align with the goals. These habits are your daily actions, right? The things that we should be doing every single day. And it's an accountability tool, and it kind of gamifies it and makes it fun, because every day you get to check. If you have 5 things that I wanted to do today, as far as my habits or my actions, you get to check that off. And we get a little dopamine hit every single time we check off a to-do list or a box, right? And so every day it's that accountability that we need. And those 3 things are things that absolutely changed my life. The last thing that I'll say is this last bullet point. This is a core value in our company. It's called Kaizen. What does Kaizen mean? Does anybody know what? It's a Japanese business philosophy. Has anybody heard that before? It means constant and continuous improvement, okay? So you guys have to realize all the stuff that I'm talking about today. This is the analogy that I use to describe how the impact will happen over time. When you do these things, when you start becoming self-aware, you start taking inventory of your thoughts and your feelings and your actions, and then you start becoming intentional about how you change it, the result is not going to be like walking into a room that's dark, flipping a light switch, and then all of a sudden it's bright and I can see, right? It doesn't just happen like that, okay? This type of stuff happens over time. So think about it as a dimmer switch, okay? So you walk into the room and you start doing these things and it's pitch black. And every day, the dimmer switch is going up 1%. 1% a day, 1% a day. After a month, it's still pretty dark in that room. Do you guys follow what I'm saying? It doesn't, we're not different. We're not a different human being after 30 days of doing this, right? But after an extended period of time, eventually, that room is going to light up, right? And then you're going to see where the door is to get out of this room. That's how we break through our plateaus to the next level, right? Then we go into the next room, and guess what? It's dark in that room. And guess what? You got to become a different person again. And so this whole process is just something that happens over and over and over again, and allows you to progress until you get to wherever that ending destination map is on your goal sheet, okay? That's it for me. If you guys need anything real estate related, okay, you guys can go to my website, jasonpritchard.com. On the very first page, there's a button that says Get Access. Dylan's got a bunch of free stuff. I've got every single free tool that my company uses every single day in our business, literally for free.
All right, one more round of applause for Jason. I have a couple notes that I'd like to extend on what Jason said. I think, if nothing else, mindset is the single most important thing that you can have. I felt this for myself for a very, very long time as a kid in his 20s trying to get into real estate. There are so many limiting beliefs that you have, especially when you've never done a deal. And the thing that we have to do is to continue to remind ourselves that we are that person, that we have that it factor, and it's our time to do it. I think one thing that I'd like to add on what Jason was saying is being clear about what you want. What is it, what life do you want to live? Being clear about the goals that you have, because when you are looking for opportunity and you know what opportunity looks like, when it's standing in front of you, you can actually take action. If you're not clear about what you want, opportunity looks like everything. And if you chase 2 rabbits, you get none. That I can promise you. And another thing that he was saying, law of attraction is huge. It's really important to be mindful of the words that we speak on ourselves. But like Jason said, the woo has to meet the work. You can want it, but if you're not taking action consistently to get it, you will never get it. So make sure that you're mindful of what you're telling yourself, and you're mindful of the actions that you're actually taking to get there, and know that the work you put in is a lagging measure of the success that you get at the end. One thing that I want to add, this is something that's been really, really important for me, because in real estate it can be very hard. Just like Jason was saying, cold calling is my favorite way to get leads, but it is fucking hard work. It sucks a lot of the time. I've had to program myself to believe that I like cold calling because I know that there's deals coming to fruition, but you have to be mindful when you're outcome based and the goal is just money, the goal is just doing a deal, it makes each day that doesn't go your way that much harder. And if we're focused on the process and the person we're becoming along the way, it makes each time that doesn't go our way, it makes us realize that we're one step closer to getting to where we want to go. And that is something that's been transformational for me and has allowed me to weather the storm, because real estate is tough, entrepreneurship is tough, And the goals and stuff, what happens, for those of us that haven't done deals, when you do deals, what happens is you reach the goal, you rip out the goalpost, and you put it 10 yards farther. And so what that means is it's not about the goals. The real significance lies in the person we become along the way, and to become a seven-figure earner, you have to become a seven-figure person, and it starts up here. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to add. I did want to give us 10 minutes, so I'll bring all the speakers up on stage. We'll do a little Q&A, so if you guys have questions for me, for my dad, for Jose, or for Jason about literally anything, this will be the time to ask, and then we'll break out for the next 30, 45 minutes. I'll stay, we all will stay until you guys want to leave, so if you guys want to network and do all that, we'll give you guys time to do that too, so we can bring up the rest of the speakers. All right, any questions? I actually bought it on Mercari. It's like eBay. You can get a lot of things half off. This is brand new. Got it for a fourth the cost.
So with the whole mindset, to keep yourself in a positive outlook, even when everything's going against you, the day's not going so well, do you guys use any sort of motivational speakers or to help direct you, help uplift you?
Yeah, I'm really big on that. And we got to realize all the content that we decide to assume every single day, if you don't think that that's programming the way that you believe, you're mistaken, okay? And so when I say content, I'm not just talking about social media, I'm talking about music that we listen to, the movies that we watch, the news, the TV shows, all of those things. So one great way that I have found to kind of hack that feeling down, right, is when I work out, when I'm driving, I'm only being intentional about listening to things and ingesting content that puts me in a better state of mind. So that can be YouTube is great for that type of stuff. You can just type in motivation and you have millions of options as far as channels and different things. I'm a big motivational speaker, Les Brown, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins. I really, really love Les Brown. So if you guys need like suggestions on stuff on just hearing something positive, right? Just sometimes we just need to hear something that puts us in a better state of mind. And again, you get to choose what you get to consume. So I think that's definitely a good thing to do, especially if you're feeling down, but you should be doing it consistently.
So Jason said something about Jim Rohn. So Jim Rohn is my guy. I used to go running and be listening to him every single day. So, and this was like way before I even thought of being a success. I used to listen to these guys because to me, they opened up a different mindset in my mind for me to be able to achieve more. So again, just like Jason's saying, whatever you listen to, whatever you consume every single day, you're gonna become.
I'll touch a little bit on that as well. I think that just kind of like what he said earlier, well, Jason specifically, setting kind of a morning routine and kind of being selfish with that starts with the book, The Miracle Morning. I don't have any hashtag to that or any connections, but anyways, but it just being very intentional about that time, working out in the morning, reading good books, surrounding yourself with good people. Those are all great things, but the time that you have with yourself is the most important, right? Because that's your time to invest in yourself, get a good sweat on, get a good pump on, have good breakfast. I mean, those are all cliche things that we honestly hear, but that's all a component to make sure that you're starting off the day to be able to combat those things that are going to happen later in the day, because we don't really know what's going to happen later in the day, but we can control, again, our thoughts, our feelings, and our emotions from the start.
You brought up something important, exercise. I didn't talk about this, but when you're feeling down, go work out. Like, for me, has there been anybody that's done a good workout, walked out of the gym and been like, fuck, I feel like shit, that sucks. I'm like, no, it doesn't exist, right? It's like, you can't do that. So there's these little things that you can do that we know that we should be doing, but sometimes we just don't do them, right? So I think focusing on your health and making that a priority and adding that as part of your routine every day, doing some type of physical activity just to get the endorphins going, the blood rushing, just to start feeling good and check those boxes is a great way every single day to set yourself up to be successful.
One thing that I do that I think is a little bit different, I'm a nerd, but I'm very mindful of like the man and person that I'm trying to become. And so something that I started doing about 2 months ago is whenever I'm having a hard time, let me backtrack. Whenever we give advice to somebody, it's much easier to give advice than to take it from yourself, right? And so if we can just white label that, right? I know there's a lot of times when I give advice and I'm like, fuck, I should be doing that too. So what I've been doing is I journal with what I'm going through, what I'm struggling with, and I talk to the man that I'm trying to become, the person that's 20, 30, 40 years older than me, that is me, that has experienced all the things I've already experienced, and I talk to him and have him tell me what I need to do, because a lot of times we know exactly what we need to be doing, but we're just looking at it from the wrong frame, and we're processing it from what we're feeling right now. And so many times in my life, the things that felt like they've rocked me the most have actually been the most beautiful experiences, and I realized once you get on the other side of the mountain, it actually wasn't that bad to begin with. So who better to talk to than the man or woman you're trying to become 20, 30, 40 years in the future?
And then I'll stop talking, you guys can ask questions. So there was one thing that my dad, well, he taught me lots of stuff, but there was one thing that he said, and I think that as you're becoming hyper aware of who you're becoming, the morning stuff that you're doing, the routine, you become super hypersensitive to when you're kind of off a little bit, right? I think as you become leaders and you become people that that you want to become, people look up to you and they expect you to be a certain way at all times. So for example, if I walk into the office and I look like what do they call it, resting bitch face? So if I walk into the office and I'm having a bad day, it's very easily recognized, and the reason that I'm bringing that up is because it's not always easy to be the best version of yourself every day, right? But you become cognitive of who you are when you are doing the things that you need to do on a daily basis. When you start doing bad things, bad habits, start associating yourself with the media or whatever, and you let your mindset drift, that stuff all takes away from your deposits, right? But my dad told me one thing, and he said, usually, if there's a problem, if you start by looking in the mirror, you'll find the problem right there. And if you point at the mirror, you'll find that usually there's fingers pointing back at you. So that was something that was very powerful to me, and I it was my dad, so at that time I said, it's dumb, but now that I've allowed myself to grow into the person that I am today, it's one of the most powerful things that have made me who I am.
Really good question. Any other questions?
I got a question for them. So as you guys can see, there's still a lot of people in this room, and usually when you do this and it's not good, people start, filing out. Everybody's still here. So what's one thing that maybe Dylan or Bo or Jason or myself gave you that actually meant something to you guys in this network here?
If you feel that you guys here, that you want us to be successful.
Great, man. That's cool.
I gotta say, each one of you guys are like truly genuine. Actually, want to help people out. I love that. Most people are out there think about trying to sell something. We're all salesmen. It doesn't matter if you're a nerd or anything. We're all selling something, right? And it's wonderful how you guys do the presentation, how you guys, the negotiation skills. I love the whole part. And then, at the tail end of it, Jason's speaking, I'm like, wow. This is another level right here. And I'm used to the wholesaling and all this other stuff right here, but the mindset is what takes it to another level. I love it. Thank you guys.
100%. Yeah. Charging you $3.99. Question.
When you go to start the remodels, do you tend to go with the cheaper stuff, or how do you find a balance between, say, you're remodeling the kitchen, or you're redoing the kitchen to sell the property, or do you just go with the cheaper flooring, the cheaper cap, or how do you find a balance? Yeah.
So the question is how do you decide between going to do like higher end stuff or cheaper end? How do you save money on certain things?
You're doing the flooring, how I'm just going to go with this cheap brand so I can get this out of or do you go with a little pricier stuff?
Sure.
How do you?
Yeah, really good question. I think we'll all have different spins on it. I think one of the things that we try to be mindful of, and this ties back to what Jose was saying earlier about exit strategies, is we want to be mindful of the product that we're buying, right? So if this is a ARV of 300,000, we want to look at model matches or properties that, what are they selling for once they're resold? Are the floors redone? Are the cabinets redone? Are these cabinets salvageable? Can we just repaint them and add new finishes? Or
if they're not salvageable, then we have to take them out and we'll have to expense that. So we're trying to be mindful all the time of where we can kind of save money and where it makes sense to put money back into the property. Typically, in our experience, at least in my experience, and I'm still learning, but in my experience, the kitchen and bathrooms are where you're typically going to want to put the most money. And if you can salvage some things like flooring, you could maybe refinish them or something like that. If you're dealing with higher end products, that's typically when you're not going to, like if you're a $500,000 house is completely different than a $300,000 house. So that's my opinion.
So my approach on it, and I'm sure some of these guys will attest to that, is you have to underwrite the deal and you have to know where your profit margins are and how much you can expense for that actual deal. I've had a problem, and someone to my left might be able to also agree. I've always wanted to over improve a property, right? So I'd be like, fuck the budget, because I'd be like, my name's attached, Miracle Realty, and everybody knows me, so if they buy my house and they fall through the floor, they're looking back at me, which is partially true. However, there is a halfway balance and a medium with that, because like Dylan was saying, you can find little things that you can save cost on. I mean, sometimes it might not be in the budget, and that you have to be able to determine if that's really gonna make the end or the be all. But the next component, like Dylan also was saying, is you don't have to over improve these properties. You're already taking it from super ugly to probably better than what it was. And most of the time, it's gonna be something that's gonna sell, right? It might not be everybody's cup of tea, but if you do it correctly and you have good workmanship, that's gonna be a huge pillar of moving that property. Next, I don't use a hammer. You can ask anybody that's close to me. If I did, I'd probably use it backwards and jack it up worse than it is. I'm not Mr. Fix-It. So my suggestion is get a contractor that you trust and like that can help you in that process, so you know the numbers and you can dial those numbers in correctly.
We've done lots and lots of rehabs, and so the system that works for us is we have tiers, right? So we have like rental grade, then we have entry-level first-time home buyer, and we do prices, right? So 250 to 350 is a range, right? Then we have 350 to 450, then we've got 500 and up, and then we've got set material choices for each one of those options. So when you're working at volume, when you're doing one house at a time, you can spend a little bit more time picking the design, but think about your business in terms of what it's going to feel like once you scale. And when you're doing 10 at a time, if you are picking a different design out for every single thing, you're gonna spend all day at Home Depot and the Granite Place. And where are we typically moving the needle as business owners? It's finding deals and raising money to do the deals, not being at Home Depot making tile selections. So pick something that's right for that price range, and then just make it an assembly line type process. It's here it is, make it easy for your contractors, give them the list, give them the SKUs, give them the location, and then you guys go buy it, we pay for it over the phone, okay? So think about it based on that. I'm gonna double down on what Bo said. I have over improved lots and lots of properties, especially at the beginning, right? Because honestly, this is like cliche, but like my wife and I used to watch HGTV. We used to watch all the flipping shows before I was in and I was like, dude, I can do this. And then I would get in there and I was like, I want to do this and I'll blow this wall out and I want to do that. I have left hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table because I just over improved the properties and I did way too much. And my wife played a little part in that too, because she was like, why are you going to keep these counters in the bathroom? Why not just get the granite in the kitchen and match the counters in both of the bathrooms? And finally, again, think about when you're operating at scale. Replacing the counters in both bathrooms is a $2,000 decision, okay? And what I told my wife, I was like, hey, this is what's going to happen. It'll cost us about $2,000 for labor, materials, whatever, to demo out the old countertops, put new ones, put new sinks, have all the guys do it. The house is going to sell for the same exact price. So when this is done, we can keep the cabinets and the counters, and I'll give you $2,000. You could just keep it, or we could make the cabinets and counters nice for the next buyer. And she was like, well, I'll take the money. And so that's, if you've got a partner or a spouse that's giving you a hard time about that, give them that proposition, and they'll always take the money, or at least that they should, because we've got to. There is no need. We don't want health and safety. Our reputation is important, so what Bo is saying is very true. Fresno is a a big little real estate community, if that makes sense, right? It feels big, but like your reputation does get out there, and if it's bad, it spreads very quickly. So we don't want health and safety issues. We don't want the buyer's agent coming back a month after they moved in and saying this happened and that happened and whatever. So we've got to do things the right way, but you've got to make decisions where there's a healthy balance between something that's good, that's going to sell, that also is in line with our budget. And we're not moving into these houses. That's what I tell my wife too, is like, this isn't our house. So it's not, we're not gonna move into it, right? And there's a business behind this, and if we're not making money and the numbers don't make sense, then we're not gonna be in business very long. So you gotta be mindful of both.
So I've over-improved properties as well, but we have 3 pillars, my wife and I. We have safe, we have clean, and we have presentable. So if we can cover those 3 things in the budget that we have, that's how we figure out if this property is well enough to sell, and is it presentable to the next buyer. We've all been in flips that just do not feel safe, do not feel clean, and are not presentable. So those 3 things are what we cover in our business to make sure that that budget is what it's supposed to be.
It's not a question, it's just thankfulness to you, all of you guys for being here. True story, I really appreciate you guys, like, down to earth, all of you guys. I always see you guys, you 2 guys on the big advertisement you guys have over the freeway. I heard you VP, it was awesome though. And by the way, me when I talked to you on the phone, you took by one of my houses. Good job, man. I've been getting emails, Jason. But I'm impressed on how humble you guys are, and you guys sharing so much knowledge for us. I really appreciate it, and I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely. And honestly, I can confidently speak on behalf of all the group. We super appreciate every single one of you guys. Like I said earlier, you're not only spending your time with us, but you chose to invest your time with us on a Saturday morning. So I just want to say, please give your guys themselves a round of applause. It's huge that you guys are here.
Also, to just stem off that just a little bit, I mean, you guys did show up, but I just want to show you how powerful the rooms can be just real quick. Is there anybody in here looking for a deal? Okay, hands down. Anybody here that finds deals and really good at finding deals? Okay, so you see the hands raised, right? Is there anybody that needs money? Is there anybody that has money that they'd like to lend? See? You guys got to be looking around. Is there anybody that just maybe doesn't even want to invest in real estate, but wants to help people find investments in real estate? Realtors, lenders? Okay, great. So point being is that you just never know who's in the room. There's entry-level people here. There's people that are very experienced, and the point being is it's not redundant. It's just part of the process, right? It's just like somebody that graduates from high school, goes to college, and comes back and becomes a teacher, and they're giving back to their community that way. We're giving back just like those people that gave to us. And so we appreciate the fact that you're saying that we're up here being humble, because we all are. We all come from different backgrounds, and our journey has made us who we are, but along the way it's been great people like your guys' selves that's touched our lives, made an impact in our lives, and changed our lives for the better. So like people like Jason, which I'm super grateful for, we're grateful for you guys showing up today.
All right, guys, so we'll wrap it up there. I think one thing I want to leave with you guys, I think that's been jet fuel for us and has allowed us to grow and be in rooms with people that we want to do things like, right? People, how do I say this? If you want to do deals, you need to surround yourself with people that are doing deals. If you want to make money, you need to surround yourself with people that are making money. And I think the mantra that we continue to repeat to ourselves, and Jason has been a great example of this, Jose's a great example of this, my dad's a great example of this, is give more than you take, and I promise you, you will always have access to the people you want to be around.
Just one last question. What's your portfolio looks like, Jason?
The first rental I bought was 2016, and it was a little house over in Tower District. I started in 2016, I bought 2 rentals. 2017, I got into 9. 2018, I got to 25. And by the end of 2019, I had gotten to 50. And I started just buying one house at a time. So probably the first 12 or 15 were just houses. Then we graduated to small, like multifamily, 2 to 4 units. Now we do small apartments. We're doing motel conversions. We're trying to find creative ways right now, right? Because it's a little bit more difficult with interest rates and prices. Even though rents have scaled, you know, it's harder to make it pencil than it was when it was there. But yeah, that's how I started. Just houses, small multifamily, small apartments, go from there.
I phrased my question correctly, or you didn't hear me? What's your portfolio worth?
Oh, what's it worth? Sorry, I thought you said what's it look like. Probably like 13 to 15, like the overall portfolio, 13 to 15 million probably, something like that, right? And you know what's even crazier than that? 10 years ago, I never even thought that I was the kind of person that could ever accomplish any of the things that I've accomplished. Isn't that wild? All the stuff that I've done, guys, like these exercises that I'm telling you about, I used to just write my goals down in legal pads, right? And I have all these stacks of all these yellow legal pads where every day I would just write it, I'd turn the page and I'd write the goal over and over and over. You know what's crazy? Every single one of those goals I accomplished. Every single one. And I would never tell you to do something that has not worked for me in my life, right? So all I'm ever gonna do is get up here and you're sharing what's doing, and I'm a big believer that some of you guys in here know like my actual story, and I went through a very difficult time in my life from 2012 to 2014 when I was like at the worst of the worst. And if I'm telling you, if I could do what I'm doing right now after going through some of the things that I've gone through and get here, every single person in this room can do it too. And we just want to help you guys get there if we can.
And if you can be 24 years old and do it too.
So we'll, yeah, go ahead. Yes, we got Grace in the back. Grace is awesome. Yes, she's with Placer Title. She is a freaking amazing partner. She rolls out the red carpet. she was joking about it earlier, but I literally went in on my computer and I was like, okay, what do I need to do when I raise private money? What are the steps? And so she's freaking awesome and been a absolute, like, one of the very few partners that we have that has just given way more than she's ever taken, and she's helped us make deals that we didn't know how to make them, and so she's an awesome resource.
I have to say one thing about Grace because I didn't want to leave her out, so thank you, Kurt. She's also the one handing out business cards as a title rep, and the one thing that I can always tell you about Grace, she's always going to ask you, how are you been? What do you got going on? Where's your escrows at? So the point is she is a hustler and she'll do it. She always comes from a good place when she's doing it. She's been doing it for a really freaking long time, and I appreciate her partnership with all things that we do. So if you are looking for someone, Placer Title and Madera, Grace is definitely a great advocate for that.
So we talked about a lot of stuff, but we did not talk about title. The title work that she does is invaluable. She's a pivotal partner to what you guys are trying to do. Why? Because we got to make sure that this property is free and clear of any other liens. Okay, so title is very, very important.
All right, so now we'll break for networking, guys. So now's your time. We super appreciate you guys coming out. Make some relationships. We're one handshake away from changing your life.